Hello. Man. Hello, Asif.
Hello.
We
Hello.
are getting ready to start.
Hello.
Yeah, Asif, you are able to hear me?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Virenchi here.
Shall we start, sir? Shall we start, sir?
Yeah, start.
Yes. A very good afternoon to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the one-day national webinar on managing roller coaster of emotions during COVID-19 lockdown, organized by the Department of Zoology, Little Flower Degree College, Hyderabad, in collaboration with Sonapur College, Sonapur, Kamrup, Assam. This is Dr. Gomti, Faculty, Department of Zoology. I am delightful to be your host for today's program. And I take this opportunity to extend my hearty welcome to our Honorable Principal, Reverend Brother Vincent Reddy, our beloved Vice Principal, Mrs. Jayanti Reddy, our collaborating college principal, Dr. Devabrat Kanikar, Sonapur College, Sonapur, Assam, our esteemed eminent guest speakers, Dr. Virinchi Sharma and Dr. Maithili Hazarika, invited elite participants of different institutions, staff, and students. The threat to our health, economy, and relationships caused by COVID-19 are unprecedented. For many, it has created not only extreme anxiety, but also feeling of sadness, anger, guilt, and confusion. Anger and anxiety are often two sides of the same coin. One side is fight and the other is flight. But both can be triggered when we are stressed, and COVID-19 can create these feelings. In this webinar, experts are there to discuss the strategies to manage each of these different forms of negative emotions to ensure certainty in the uncertain times. College is the place where you start developing yourself by all new experiences to showcase yourself into the outside world. Yes, Little Flower Degree College shows the best platform for this. Lead to illuminate is our motto. And on this occasion, we would like to showcase the glory of our college in the form of a short video. May I request our technical team for the video presentation?
Little Flower Degree College, Uppal, Hyderabad, a Montfort institute run by the Brothers of St. Gabriel Educational Society, has been illuminating the world around with its motto, Lead to Illuminate. In its 12 years journey of excellence, LFDC has been fostering the young generation to be humane and preparing them to compete, realizing their dreams and purpose in life on the competitive global platform.
Good educational environments, discipline,
practical skills helped me in getting my first job.
Excellent placement opportunities.
LFDC is an awesome college.
Dear parents and students, Little Flower Degree College, Uppal, Hyderabad has begun its admissions for the academic year 2020 and 21. The online application for the 3-year degree in BA, BSc, BCom and BBA is now available on our website.
Little Flower College.
LFDC.
Little Flower Degree College.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our beloved Vice Principal, Mrs. Jayanti Reddy, to deliver the welcome address. Over to Mrs. Jayanti Reddy.
Good afternoon and welcome to Little Flower Degree College, Hyderabad. I welcome our principal and correspondent, Reverend Brother Vincent Reddy, the eminent speakers of today's seminar, Dr. Virinchi Sharma, Director, Manasa Hospitals, Hyderabad, and Dr. Maithili Hazarika, Associate Professor of Clinical Psychology, Guwahati Medical College and Hospital, Assam. And a hearty welcome to Dr. Devavrat Kanika, Principal, Sonapur College, Assam, and Dr. Nizara Hazarika, Associate Professor, Department of English, Sonapur College, Assam. It is indeed a great opportunity for us to collaborate with Sonapur College, to engage with each other productively, to contribute our expertise for the common purpose of this webinar. Thank you, Dr. Devavrat. I also extend a warm welcome to all the invited guests, faculty from various institutions, and my staff. Welcome and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. As the title of the webinar suggests, managing roller coasters of emotions, it is indeed the need of the hour. The outbreak of COVID-19 has affected all segments of the population, created a global health crisis. It has instilled a level of fear and anxiety in all of us. As it has isolated us physically, we have felt isolated mentally too. Restrictive measures of social distancing, lockdown, isolation, temporary unemployment, and many more have elevated the rate of stress or anxiety and fear. No doubt, we all are living in very stressful and uncertain times right now, and it is important that we look after our mental as well as our physical health. I believe today's session will helpful in realizing this and take necessary steps to providing guidance and advices to take care of our mental health. I also acknowledge Dr. Gomati and Dr. Janna from Department of Zoology from Little Flower Degree College, Uppal, for organizing this webinar. Welcome everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy mentally and physically.
Gomati ma'am, can you unmute and talk, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. By Dr. Helen Keller. Today we have the prestigious Sonapur College, Sonapur, Assam, who have teamed with us to fight the negative emotions. May I request our technical team for the video presentation of Sonapur College, Sonapur, Assam.
I welcome you all to Sonapur College. Established on 2nd August in 1991, Sonapur College has been imparting bachelor's degree in arts, commerce, and 3 B-vocation programs in theatre and stagecraft, retail management and IT, tourism and travel management, apart from post-graduation in Assamese and geography. NAC has accredited Sonapur College with B grade with a CGPA of 2.58 in 2014. NIRF has recognized Sonapur College at the rank band of 101 to 150 during 2018. UGC has also recognized Sonapur College as the Didu Coastal Kendra for skill enhancement.
Network problem.
Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Devabrat Kanikar, Principal of Sonapur College, Assam, to address the gatherings. Over to Dr. Devabrat.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Honorable Reverend Brother Vincent Reddy, Principal, Little Flower Degree College, Hyderabad. Honorable Mrs. Jayanti Reddy, Vice Principal of Little Flower College, Degree College. Respected resource persons, Dr. Virinchi Sharma, Director, Manasa Hospital, Hyderabad. Dr. Maithili Hazarika, Associate Professor, Guwahati Medical College, Assam, and respected valued participants. At the very outset, I, on behalf of Sonapur College fraternity, express our sincere appreciation to you all. We are thankful to the Little Flower Degree College, Hyderabad, for the collaboration in organizing this webinar on managing roller coaster of emotions during COVID-19 lockdown. At the very outset, I want to speak a few words about our college. Sonapur College, which is located in Nature's Greenery on a hillock at Kamrup Metropolitan District, Assam, has been imparting bachelor's course in arts, commerce, and post-graduation. We are a Didu Coastal Kendra approved by UGC for skill development and has been imparting B-vocation programs in retail management and IT, theatre and stagecraft, and tourism and travel management. We are a NAC accredited and NIF ranked institute. As the coronavirus pandemic rapidly sweeps across the world, it is inducing a considerable degree of fear, worry, and concerns in the population at large and among certain groups in particular, such as older adults, care providers, and people with underlying health conditions. In public mental health terms, the main psychological impact to date is elevated rates of stress and or anxiety. But as new measures and impacts are introduced, especially quarantine and its effects on many people's usual activities, routine or livelihoods, level of loneliness, depression, harmful alcohol and drug use, and self-harm or suicidal behavior are also expected to rise. The COVID-19 pandemic and resulting economic downturn have negatively affected many people's mental health and created new barriers for people already suffering from mental illness and substance use disorders. In populations already heavily affected, issues of service access and continuity for people with developing or existing mental health conditions are also now a major concern, along with the mental health and well-being of frontline workers. As part of its public health response, WHO has worked with partners to develop a set of new materials on the mental health and psychological support aspects of COVID-19. Therefore, it becomes mandatory to address the issues arise from the prevailing COVID-19 situation. Let's listen to the ideas of today's speakers and work for our mental well-being. I once again welcome our honorable resource persons and the respected participants from different universities, colleges, and other institutes. Thank you, Department of Zoology, Little Flower Degree College, Hyderabad, for making the things happen. I wish the webinar a great success. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Dear friends, as we all know that the entire planet is under lockdown due to the ongoing pandemic, and it is known fact that this lockdown may eventually have an impact on mental health. At the same time, it may also lead to multidimensional impact across generations. Moving right along to the first session, it's my pleasure to ask Mrs. Rashmi, HOD, Department of Chemistry, to introduce our eminent guest speaker, Dr. Virinchi Sharma, psychiatrist, Director, Manasa Hospitals, Hyderabad. Over to Mrs. Rashmi.
Good afternoon, one and all. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. Virinchi Sharma, a well-known doctor based in Hyderabad who specializes in psychiatry. He has over 8 years of experience practicing medicines in various hospitals. He currently works as a director at Mansa Hospital. Dr. Virinchi is an alumnus of Little Flower Junior College. He completed his MBBS from NTR University of Health Sciences and further went on to do his MD in psychiatry. In 2013, he founded Fighting Blues, a campaign to create awareness about the most common and most dangerous psychiatric disorder, depression. Dr. Virinchi has several achievements to his credit, including he received Torrance Young Scholar Award for Psychiatry in 2014. He has been one of the state toppers in psychiatry in 2015. Thrice he has won state level and interstate quiz competitions. Sir has presented several papers in national and state level conferences. He has published a paper in the International Journal of Scientific Research. He has been invited as a guest speaker by the Academy of Family Physicians of India, Telangana chapter. As corporate speaker, he delivered stress management session for prestigious companies like TCS, Uber, Oyo, ZenQ, etc. He has been invited as a guest speaker on the National Podium, Annual National Conference of the Indian Psychiatric Society, to speak on suicide prevention in January of 2020. He has participated in more than 300 television debates, including national television on social issues, and has chaired the panel with reputed police officers, advocates, celebrities, and doctors. It is indeed a pleasure to have you amidst all of us. Little Flower Degree College welcomes you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Rashmi. I now request the participants to send their queries in the chat box, which will be dealt with at the end. May I request Dr. Virinchi Sharma to take over the session on the rise of anxiety pandemic effect of COVID-19 on mental health. I request our technical team to share the screen. Over to Dr. Virinchi.
Thank you so much. Indeed, it's an honor to be a part of this webinar today, and I would like to genuinely thank from the bottom of my heart both the Little Flower Degree College as well as the Sonapur College for considering me to be a part of this national webinar today. It's a pride, matter of pride for me, being a student of Little Flower and today being able to be a guest speaker. So I'm always indebted to all my teachers and my college for making me worth this session. So without wasting much time, I shall move forward with the presentation today. And like you all can see on the screen, the title says The Rise of the Anxiety Pandemic. And I thought this title was very apt because if we have been following what the World Health Organization has been saying, the WHO has very clearly warned that the next pandemic after the COVID-19 is going to be the mental health pandemic. And we all know there could be multiple reasons, like, our, honorary dignitaries have spoken in the introduction, be it the lockdown, inability to meet our loved ones, insecurities about health, insecurities about job, inability to balance work and home, substance use. So all of these somewhere have been taking a toll on the mental health. And there has been a rise. I mean, me, even in my clinical practice, have actually seen, increased number of cases of people with depression or anxiety, panic attacks, people with substance use. So undoubtedly, the next focus globally is going to be on mental health, and especially anxiety, because anxiety is one issue which actually deals with uncertainty. And when the globe is fighting with a condition like COVID-19, where there is a lot of uncertainty, where there is a lot of unpredictability, uh, it has the risk of triggering one of the serious mental health issues, which is an anxiety disorder. So in this presentation, I would like to emphasize on what exactly anxiety is, what could be happening inside your brain during anxiety, what actually it does to the major organs, not just the brain during an anxiety, how to identify these anxiety episodes, and some of the best remedies that we can actually follow to deal with these anxieties, even during an unfavorable situation like the lockdown or the COVID-19. So we can go to the next slide. Well, like the slide says, let us try to have an understanding of what exactly is stress. A lot of times we use this word, we say that I'm stressed out. We say that, I'm under a lot of stress. So is stress really bad? Not really. If you can see the slide says stress is not an illness. So what is stress? So stress is a state of mental or an emotional strain or tension resulting from the adverse or demanding circumstances. To simplify it, stress is your body's reaction every time your body actually moves from your comfort zone. A lot of times people come and tell me, sir, I actually work for 14 to 15 hours a day. After 15 hours of work, I go to the gym and then I go back and spend time with my family, but I don't feel anything happening inside me. Do you think I'm actually stressed? So undoubtedly, when we are working our body out for such a long time, there is stress happening inside us. So what exactly is the stress that I'm talking about that happens inside us? So if you see the last point of the slide, when you perceive a threat or a major challenge, chemicals and hormones surge throughout your body. So every time your body is under stress, that means your body is producing some neurochemicals to fight with that upcoming challenge, or your body is producing some hormones like cortisol, which helps you to face the upcoming challenge. Next slide. Then what exactly is anxiety? So anxiety refers to anticipation of a future concern and is more associated with muscular tension and avoidance behavior, or it is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or uneasy about something with an uncertain outcome. So what it really means is, when we are facing a situation where we are not very sure about the outcome. A student goes for an examination. He doesn't know what the question paper is going to be like. He doesn't know how his answers are going to be taken by the examiner. He doesn't know if he's going to pass or fail. That creates anxiety. Now, today I was invited for this webinar. I was not very sure if I would be doing well. I was not very sure if I would be able to read my slides. So there is a sense of discomfort inside me, which is nothing but an anxiety. Next slide. So now this picture actually tries to explain, what exactly happens inside the brain. So if you look at the topmost structure, hypothalamus is the structure of the brain. And every time, there is stress, there is the activation of the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the bottommost, the adrenal gland. So this is called as the HPA axis. So there is CRH, a hormone that is released. The CRH goes and activates the pituitary. Then there is ACTH, another hormone that is released. This goes and activates the adrenal gland. And the bottommost, if you see, there is cortisol that is actually produced during the stress. So now this cortisol is a hormone which is produced every time your body is under stress. Now we need to understand that every time this cortisol is produced in excess levels, it has a damaging effect on the entire body. So this excess of cortisol levels in the body is called as hypercortisolemia. And this situation of hypercortisolemia, where there is excess cortisol being produced, can actually be depleting to the body. Let us see what it actually does to the entire body. Next slide. Well, this slide very clearly explains how stress affects the entire body. So here, when I say stress, I'm talking about the release of cortisol or excess of cortisol that is being produced by the body. And if you can see, it actually affects the entire human body, starting from the brain to the cardiovascular system, to the joints, muscles, your immune system, skin, gut, reproductive system. So the entire body has a very, very, very damaging effect because of this excess of cortisol. So if you look at the brain, there is difficulty in concentration. It could lead into anxieties, depressions, mood swings, irritabilities, and then, cardiac conditions like hypercholesterol levels, high blood pressure. It can lead into some joint and muscle aches. Your immune system comes down. Your skin can actually show some difficulty, in maintaining the texture of the skin. There can be hair loss. There can be, dryness of the skin, and there can be gastrointestinal symptoms. There can be difficulty in absorption of the food, hyperacidity state. There can be bloating of the stomach. Similarly, a lot of people do have difficulty in the reproductive system also, which causes reduction in the hormones, reduction in the libido, and even a disturbance in the menstrual cycles. So this picture very clearly says that every time your body is producing cortisol, it is damaging your entire body, and most of this damages is something which goes the human being. Go to the next slide. Well, very clearly, another slide which speaks about what high levels of cortisol do to your body. So there can be weight gains, there can be puffiness of the face, mood swings like we spoke, there can be increased in anxiety, there can be fatigue, there is increased urination, frequent urinations, there is problems with fertility, there can be high susceptibility to infections because your immunity is coming down, blood pressure issues, skin issues like acne, hair loss we spoke about, and then there is a high risk for fractures because your bone density is coming down, muscular pains, there can be sexual dysfunctions, as well as there can be symptoms of excessive thirst. So one thing I'm trying to highlight in these slides is this one hormone that our body actually produces as a fight or flight hormone, as a fight or flight chemical, can actually be depleting to the entire human system. Next slide. Well, this is an interesting scan which shows the functioning of the human brain during an illness and while it is not having an illness. So this is called as an fMRI scan. So fMRI is a functional MRI scan. So what we do in this is we inject a dye into the human blood, and then we start giving the brain some activities. Like we all know, any region of the body, while it is doing an activity, there is a gush of blood to that particular region. If we all see, when somebody is working out, when somebody is exercising, there is a rush of blood to that muscle, and that is how the muscle grows. So similarly, now once there is a dye that is injected into the human blood, and then the brain is given an activity, we can see that in the right side of the picture, the not depressed side of the picture, the right side, shows that this dye has gone and occupied a lot of centers of the brain. That is why there's a lot of yellowish coloration in that particular picture. So that means that in a non-depressed brain, there is almost the entire brain that is functioning normally. But at the same time, if you look at the depressed brain, there are only a few centers that are getting activated. So this has actually explained the scientists that during a psychological illness or during a mental illness, can be depression, can be anxiety, can be stress or PTSD, OCDs, be it any illness, they have observed that there has been a gross reduction in the most of the important centers of the brain, and that actually is the cause for a lot of inability of or a reduced capacity of the brain's function. Next slide. Well, this is a very interesting, picture, because a lot of times, parents come down to me with their young children and they, tell them that there is something wrong. And at the end of the consultation, when we diagnose them with a psychological illness, undoubtedly there is a state of shock that, my child has an illness. But the major question is, they ask me, how can a child be stressed out? How can a child have depression? So this picture very clearly speaks about a 3-year-old child. So a 3-year-old child who underwent stress in the form of extreme neglect. So the neglect can be from both the parents, not having a parent, or having a single parent, or maybe when the parent has some psychological issue and unable to deliver that comfort or security or love to the child. We have seen that this picture shows that there has been a reduction or a shrinkage of the brain. So even a 3-year-old child can undergo stress, and this stress has very clearly shown some major changes in the brain structure in the form of reduction in the brain size. So undoubtedly, once the size of the brain is reduced, the capacity of the brain is reduced, and it can lead into some deficiencies. We can go to the next slide. Now let us look at some statistical data. Yes, in the previous slides, I've just tried to give an introduction of what stress is. Stress is a common phenomena. The release of cortisol is a common phenomena. A lot of times we don't even realize how much cortisol we are releasing, but we need to understand that cortisol has a depleting effect on the brain. And I tried to explain them with some examples, this fMRI scans, the CT scans. And now let us look into some statistical data. This statistical data is majorly in regards to the stress that is happening to every human brain during the COVID-19 situation. Because the COVID-19 situation is very recent, we do not have the Indian statistical data yet, but this is the American statistical data. One thing we need to understand is, even though we are two different countries, different cultures, the issue has been the same. The COVID-19 and the impact of COVID-19 has been the same. So we can understand from this statistical data what the impact would be on India also. So if you look at the slides, according to the APA, the economy is now a significant source of stress for 70% of Americans, which was only 46% in 2019. So in just 1 year, this stress has gone up by almost 25% because of COVID-19. More than 1/3 of Americans have displayed clinical signs of anxiety, depression, or both. So that's 33% of people all over the country have actually shown psychological health issues. And only 50% of employees are comfortable discussing mental health issues. This has been a major concern because a lot of patients coming down to us are also worried to tell their faculty or to tell their boss or to tell their organizations that they have a mental health issue, because they are worried they are going to be judged because of this particular issue. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans say that they had a physical reaction when thinking of the outbreak. So the physical reaction can be some symptoms like your heart beating very fast, headaches, palpitations, difficulty in breathing, sweating all over the body. So these are some of the physical changes that we see, and almost 1 in 5 people have been complaining of these. In March, the PEW survey, 18% said that they had experienced nervousness most of the time during a survey of 1 week. And if you look at this, this figure was only 9% in 2018. So a random week they have chosen, and they've chosen a population, and they tried to see how many of them were feeling nervous. So most of the time, which was 9 or 10%, has actually doubled up to 18% now. And this is an interesting thing, the text messages to a federal disaster distress hotline. So in the developed countries, they have these 24 hours hotline services. Even in India nowadays, in some of the cities we have, where you can call up and you can tell them that, I'm having so and so symptoms. It could be because of the stress that I'm taking. And counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists help you out. So if you look at the text messages that the Federal Disaster Distress Hotline has received, it has increased more than 1000% in the month of April 2000, in the month of April 2020. So comparison with the April 2019, where there were 1790 texts. If you come to 2020, the number of text messages were 20,000. So that's like a 1000 times increase in those messages. And now a study of Great Recession that began in 2007 found that every percentage point increase in unemployment rate, there was 1.6% increase in suicide rate. So undoubtedly, somewhere, the employment being affected, the financial stress and the unemployment has led to an increase in the suicide rates. Next slide. So I don't know if this picture is visible, but again, the top, part of the picture speaks about, the April 2020, and it speaks about how many people have spoken about being depressed or, having depression. And it showed almost a 49% of people having mental health issues or a specific issue like depression. So that's almost half the population of US spoke about signs of depression. Next slide. So again, like I was talking to you about, 1 in 5 Americans speaking about these physical reactions. So the physical reactions could be in the form of nervousness, could be in the form of anxiety, could be in the form of feeling depressed, having trouble with sleeping, having symptoms like your heart beating very fast, having reduced hope in regards to future. So all of these symptoms have been extremely high in most of the Americans. Next slide. And now even this one very clearly speaks about, during the coronavirus crisis, Americans who are already suffering and Americans who have a fear in regards to future. So if you look at the percentages, 72% say that, it's disrupted their lives. 74% have the fear about the future and they say the worst is yet to come. 39% of people have already lost their jobs. 79% worry the pandemic will trigger a recession. 45% say that it has affected their mental health, and 82% fear that the nation's healthcare system will be overrun. So undoubtedly, there are good number of populations who have already been affected, and a large number of population which are worried about the worst to come. Next slide. So if you look at this particular picture, I don't know if it is very clear, but I'll try to explain. There are 6 pie diagrams, starting there's 3 on the top and 3 in the bottom. There are different time frames being taken from March till the end of April, that is 2020. And if you look at, the percentage of population who are scared, the yellow part in the circle speaks about, the percentage of population that are worried. And if you look at, all the pictures, the percentage of population that are being worried has been gradually increasing. And if you look at the bottommost picture, the 6th image, you can see that that's greater than 50% of population who are having a lot of fear in regards to having coronavirus. Next slide. So, very clearly we understand that the statistical data has very, very, very evidently shown that mental health is one of the major concerns right now with the COVID-19 issue. And that I think very clearly explains us why anxiety could be the new pandemic. But let us look at some of the commonest issues, what we usually are hearing from our patients in our day-to-day practice, why this anxiety is severe, and this probably sums up to why this anxiety could be the new pandemic. So if you look at the slide, the first most important point is that there is fear and worry about your own health and the health of your loved ones. So a lot of us, though we have been trying to follow social distancing and been trying to follow the absolute lockdown by staying at home, at some point we are forced to come out of the house. It could be because of our work, it could be because we want to buy essentials. At some point we come out and we come in contact with the external world, and once you come back home, there has been this greatest fear that you could have contracted this virus, and now you're worried how this could pass on to your loved ones. It can be the elderly at home, or it can be the younger ones at home. The second major issue has been the financial stress, your financial situation or job, or loss of support services that you rely on. So this has been one of the bigger reasons why there has been anxiety attacks. Third important reason has been the changes in the sleep and eating patterns. We all realize that at some point, because of the lockdown, because all of us have been staying at home, we have become a little lazy. Our sleeping habits have taken a toll. We've been watching a lot of electronic media. We've been watching a lot of Netflix, a lot of movies on Amazon Prime. We've updated ourselves with what we haven't seen probably in the last 1 or 2 years. But this has been bad, because somewhere your sleeping habits have changed. Because of your change in your sleeping habits, your day-to-day schedules have changed. Because of that, you're not eating on time, you're irritable, you're lethargic, amotivation has stepped in, and this is one of the bigger reasons why an anxiety could be coming. And then difficulty sleeping and working in the same place. This has been one major complaint that I've been hearing. A lot of times what people have been telling is, I work as well as sleep in my room, and now because I work in that room, that ambience of the room has been giving me stress, because every time I walk into that room, I feel that this is where I need to be working, and that is inducing a lot of stress. So that has been causing trouble for me to sleep in the same room. But unfortunately, because a lot of offices have been shut, a lot of corporates especially have been working from home, this has been a major reason why a mental health or a stress issue has been coming down. And then there have been issues with worsening of chronic health problems. It can be because of the sleeping or eating habits. It can be because of the excessive stress that we've been taking. It can be because of uh, excess of information that we have been saving in our brain. We all have been, excessively spending time on social media, checking the number of cases, probably in Telangana, probably in India, probably in Assam, probably in the US. So, though we are reading this news only for knowledge, though we are reading this news only to pass some time, we have been feeding our brains with some negative information. And this negative information could also be the triggers for an anxiety attack. There has been undoubtedly an increased use of tobacco, alcohol, and other substances. Alcohol use, even during the lockdown when the alcohol was not available, was moving, and we all know that. We've seen it in the news. People buying alcohol at double the price, triple the price, and undoubtedly this disturbing their architecture of the brain. Undoubtedly this disturbing their immunity has been another cause for an increase in the stress. One more important reason, especially from women, that I've heard is inability to manage work and home. A working woman who even takes care of the house, or who is right now forced to take care of the house, not getting enough support from the men at home, has been finding it difficult. She one side needs to take care of her work. She has to handle, the household chores, take care of cooking. There are no maids, there are no cooks available, so she has to cook food, clean the house, take care of the children, as well as take care of her work. And this undoubtedly sounds very scary, and for somebody who's doing it, has a major toll on their mental health. Necessity to play an active role in the child's education and lack of physical activity and lack of social activity. So somewhere, all of us, have divided our responsibilities. The child's education for 6 to 8 hours has been taken care by an educational institute. The child comes back, plays for a little while, and then goes for a tuition. He studies for another couple of hours in the tuition and comes back. But right now, all of this has been happening at home, where the parents have been asked to take up a more active role than what they used to do. And this has been a major concern also. And undoubtedly, the physical activity has come down, our social activity has come down. Let us not forget that every human being is a social animal. At the end of the day, we all enjoy our social life. We enjoy going out, meeting people, talking to them, spending hours expressing our emotions to them. But all of this has taken a halt. And if you look at the last reason, there has been a severe increase in domestic violence, which also could be a reason for a mental health issue. And unfortunately, though domestic violence has always existed, previously, because women are, the major chunk who undergo domestic violence, I'm talking about them. Even men undergo these issues, undoubtedly. But previously what used to happen was, be it any of the spouse members who used to who was suffering from domestic violence, had some breathing space. If there was a husband who would beat his wife every day, there was at least those 6 or 8 hours where that husband was not at home, and this wife had an opportunity to go and express or vent out her emotions to her friends or her family, or even go to a police station and complain. But now, because everybody in the family are present 24 hours at home, she is unable to vent out her emotions, as well as she is not getting any relief from this kind of stress. So if you look at these points, there could be many more that I would love to hear from the audience. But these have been some of the biggest reasons why psychological health has been affected during the lockdown or during this pandemic. And this itself explains why anxiety could be the new pandemic. Next slide. Well, let me explain a very interesting example, which we all read in psychology and psychiatry. This experiment is called as learned helplessness. So in this particular experiment, what the scientist did was, he took 3 dogs and put all the 3 of them in 3 different cages. So now cage number 1, cage number 2, and cage number 3. So cage number 1 was a control group. Cage number 2 and 3 had these dogs, which were the experimental group. So what the scientist did was, he tried to keep a barricade in cage number 2 and cage number 3. Like if you can see in the picture, if you can see in the first image, the dog is trying to pass over the barricade. So the whole cage has been divided into 2 halves with a barricade. In cage number 2, the barricade was at a significant height where the dog could jump from one side to the other. But in cage number 3, the dog did not have a chance to jump from one side to the other. So maybe you can take it as a full size barricade. So let me repeat, in cage number 2, the barricade was to a height where the dog could move from one side to the other. In cage number 3, the dog could not move from one side to the other. Now what the scientist did was, he tried to place some electrical currents on the floor of the cage. So undoubtedly the dog could feel those electrical currents, and it was feeling that pain. And every time the dog in cage number 2 felt electrical currents, it was jumping from one side to the other. So if there was electrical current on the left side, the dog was jumping to the right side. And then there was current on the right side, the dog was jumping to the left side. So this way, the dog tried to escape from one side to the other. But now in cage number 3, the dog has no means to escape. So the dog went on taking those electrical currents and crying. The dog didn't have a choice. So the experiment, went on for a significant duration of time. And after a while, what the scientist did was, he took dog in cage number 3. So cage number 3 was the dog which did not have a choice to escape. So he took dog from cage number 3 and put it in cage number 2. And now he again tried to give it some electrical currents. For his surprise, he saw that the dog, though it had an opportunity to move from one side to the other, failed to do it. So what he actually tried to explain us was the dog, which was in cage number 3, because it did not have an option to escape, even though after it was brought into cage number 2 has an option, the dog had learned to become helpless. So this is a very important phenomena that I'm trying to explain, learned helplessness. So when we have a repeated stimulus of negativity and we do not have an option to deal with it, at one point, even if we have an option to deal with it, the human brain becomes conditioned to learn to become helpless. What I'm trying to explain here is this is the same with mental health issues. When you do not target them at the initial stage, at one point, even though you have options to deal with it, the brain becomes helpless and the brain does not look for opportunities to come out. So this very clearly explains that an early intervention is absolutely important. Next slide. So now, with this introduction about what stress is, what the statistical data says, what the scans look like, what could be the causes. Now let us try to understand how do we identify that there could be an anxiety or a depression. So it is very important for us to understand what the symptoms of anxiety and what the symptoms of depression are. Because like I tried to explain in the previous slide, early intervention is one of the most important things to get some fruitful results. So if you can see this picture, it very clearly speaks about a variety of symptoms that somebody with anxiety could be having. So there could be overthinking, there can be avoidance, there can be excessive sweating, especially in the palms and in the feet. There can be stomach related issues where you're having a lot of acidity. There could be panic attacks, your heart beating very fast, difficulty in breathing. There can be, that need for reassurance where somebody has to keep on telling you, no, don't worry, don't worry. And then, there can be trouble concentrating. There is a constant worry. We spoke about difficulty in breathing. There could be headaches, that rapid heartbeat, sleep issues, memory issues. So it has a variety of symptoms. If you can see, it can be symptoms inside the head, symptoms in the heart, symptoms in the stomach, symptoms on your skin, symptoms in the palms and the feet. So all of these symptoms somewhere hint us that there could be an underlying anxiety inside us. Can we go to the next slide? Now let us look at some more symptoms. A lot of times we do see that, anxieties and depressions go hand in hand. Because if you look at the neurobiological changes are the changes that happen inside the brain. So there are some similar changes which happen in anxiety as well as in depression. So if you look at the neurobiological changes, these are a few symptoms that happen in depression, can be happening in anxiety also. So there can be low mood. So, the person is sad, the person is constantly worrying, unable to enjoy happiness or, to live happily. There can be easy fatigability. That means even the smallest of the activities is actually tiring you down and, making you difficult to participate in activities. The third most important symptom is anhedonia. Anhedonia is, inability to enjoy a pleasurable activity. Somebody who used to enjoy going for a walk, somebody who would enjoy watching a movie, somebody who would enjoy listening to music, now suddenly stops doing all of those activities. Can we go to the next slide? A few more symptoms that we see in depression, feeling of helplessness, there is guilt, there could be irritabilities and anger episodes, there can be withdrawing from friends and family, there can be lack of concentration, there can be repetitive thoughts about death. So, somebody who's depressed starts feeling negative about himself, start feeling negative about the entire world. So this makes them feel that, they are worthless and there's no need for them to live. So there can be change in appetite. We spoke about energy loss. There can be sleep issues. Sleep issues could be in the form of difficulty in initiating sleep. It can be in the form of difficulty in maintaining sleep where they're continuously getting up. and there can be difficulty in terminating the sleep also. And somewhere all these symptoms make them feel that they need a source that creates happiness, an external source. And that could be alcohol, that could be nicotine, that could be drugs. And somewhere people revert to habits like substance use. Next slide. So now, since, we know what stress is, since we know what stress could be doing to the human brain, since we know that the statistical data in regards to stress or anxiety is very high, since we know that these could be the symptoms of anxiety or depression, it is very important, I think, for us to know how we can actually manage these anxieties during a pandemic like the COVID-19. So some of the most important things, that we should be following religiously during the lockdown to make sure that our mental health is actually taken care of, is what this slide speaks about. And if you look at it, some of the important things for us or for you is: one, avoid excessive exposure to media coverage. We all know that, the media always has been speaking about the number of deaths. Nobody speaks about how this infection might not come to you. Let me tell you a very interesting fact. Suppose, even if a COVID-19 patient, is in front of you and coughs on your or sneezes on your face, and those droplets actually enter into your body, you need to understand that your human body is equipped in such a way that this COVID-19 virus can be stopped right at your nostrils itself. Suppose even if the virus crossed through the nostrils and entered into your respiratory tract, the alveoli in your lungs have the capacity to actually not let the virus come into your lungs. Suppose even if the virus passes through that and enters into your bloodstream, you need to know that your WBCs, the white blood cells, the policemen of your body, have the amazing capacity to actually fight with it and kill that virus and not let that virus spread. And even if that virus starts spreading, there are, a lot of your immune factors that can go and start fighting with all of them and reduce. Now, such facts, the media never shows. The media only shows the number of deaths that are happening. And even though they are facts, these are negative informations. And the more you feed your brain with negative information, the more your brain keeps thinking in that direction. That is the reason people get dreams, people are afraid about their loved ones, people are afraid about what is going to happen to them. So undoubtedly, reduce your exposure to media coverage. The second thing is connect through calls, text, and internet. If you look at what the WHO said, they spoke about physical distancing, but not the real social distancing. So social distancing is when you stop, when you keep your social life at halt. So your social health is equally important. We are all very fortunate, that this pandemic has come in today's world where the technology is available, where we can keep in contact with our loved ones. It is very important that you regularly use these mediums, be it Zoom, be it WhatsApp calling, talk to your loved ones. And even when you talk to them, I think it's important not to talk about COVID-19. What happens is, I call up somebody from the US, and if I start asking them how are the deaths there, and if I start telling them what the deaths are here, we are again talking negative. So, casually talk about the rest of the world, talk about, talk about the other dimensions of your life. And that is something that is going to keep your social health active. Three, add extra time for daily stress relief. So a lot of people ask me what exactly is relieving stress, or what are the activities that help in relieving stress. So as a psychiatrist, like I try to explain you, every time there is cortisol increasing in your body, there is increase in stress. So now we need, the alternative chemicals that needs to be produced, which actually either neutralize your cortisol levels or otherwise, completely keep the cortisol levels at halt. And these chemicals are called as serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, or endorphins. So these stress relieving techniques are the techniques that actually produce these positive chemicals in your brain, and they can be, meditation. There can be practicing of yoga. There can be physical exercise. There can be mental exercises. Playing mental games, keeping in constant touch with people, having communication with people, and eating healthy. There are a lot of serotonin rich diets that I always tell my patients, be it bananas, be it milk and milk products, be it nuts and dry fruits. All of them are serotonin rich. So you don't need to actively do something. Just take care of the sleep, just make sure that you're working out, just keep away from media, eat healthy, and that itself takes care of these serotonin and dopamine levels in your brain. And the most important thing is practice self care. A lot of times we do not have gratitude towards ourselves. We do not take care of ourselves. So all the activities that we are talking about are about self care and mental health. And now if you look at what should be done for kids, how to manage anxiety for kids, I think the most important thing is reassuring them that they are safe. A lot of times parents have been asking me, what do I tell my child? How can I tell my child? How much does the child know? So firstly, it is equally important to ask what the child knows. If the child knows that there is a virus like corona and it is not good to go outside, I think that's good enough for his age. If the child knows that this virus can actually take away your life, that's good enough. But now what we need to understand is constantly updating them with positive information, constantly reassuring them that things are going to be fine, and constantly communicating with them. A lot of times what is happening is, because the parents and the children are staying 24 hours together, they feel that the child is taking good care of himself. But you need to understand that the child also needs somebody to talk to them regularly, and that is somewhere our duty. Let them talk about their worries. That's equally important. You should let the child speak. You should let the child speak about what he thinks about the whole COVID-19. You should let the child express what he feels. You should let the child express his worries and share your own coping skills. You need to make sure that the child is also having a good mental health and a physical health. Limit their news exposure. Undoubtedly, with today's advent of social media, every child starting from the age of 10, 12 is holding a mobile phone in his hand. And even though he's not interested, there is some news which pops up saying, so many deaths of COVID, or there is no vaccine for COVID, or the vaccine is going to be delayed. So all these things could be, bad for the child. Create a routine and structure. I think this is one of the most important things, because not having a routine itself causes a change in these chemical levels in the brain. So be it the serotonin levels, be it the dopamine levels, they could change because of not having a routine. So make sure that they sleep on time, make sure that they get up on time, and make sure that they have those 5 hours or 6 hours of activities every day, like how their normal day used to be. And the third category of managing COVID-19 anxiety for people who are in quarantine or isolation, undoubtedly it is important to keep in contact with your loved ones. Even though you are isolated for a temporary period, there have been studies internationally which spoke about isolation having serious mental health issues like PTSD even 6 months after the isolation. So it is that you are So it is very important that you are constantly in touch with your loved ones. You need to keep in contact with your loved ones. Social media, texts, and phone calls should be utilized. Create a daily self-care routine. Even though you are in quarantine, you are in isolation, do not sit back and think that, oh my God, now because I'm isolated, I should not be having a routine. You need to understand that maximum people who are having this illness are asymptomatic, are having the mildest of the symptoms. So do not let your daily routine get affected by any of this. Keep yourself busy is one of the most important things. We all know that an idle mind is a devil's workshop. When you're idle, you start thinking negative. You start thinking negative about yourself. You start thinking negative about others. You start thinking negative about the world around. So keep yourself busy. It can be even playing games. It can be reading a book, watching a movie, and focus on new relaxation techniques. So when we speak about relaxation techniques, We all know how much all of them are helpful. There have been innumerable studies and innumerable research articles which speak about yoga, which speak about deep breathing, which speak about mindfulness techniques. A lot of times what happens is we are doing activities, but we are not focused on the activity. So in the morning I get up, I want to go to gym. When I go to gym, I'm thinking about when I will finish my gym. That is not how it should be. So if I'm in my gym, I need to actually concentrate on the present activity. I need to look at how I'm working out. I need to look at how the blood is flowing. I need to look at how the breathing in. I need to look at how I am breathing out. So this activity practice actually tries to chop out your previous thoughts and your past thoughts and your future thoughts. A lot of times anxiety is because of the past or the future. So staying in the present is one of the most important things. And for this, mindfulness activities or mindfulness techniques have been proven to work effectively. So all in all, to sum up, the management of coronavirus anxiety, you need to make sure that your physical, mental, and social health are kept active. And if you look at the WHO definition of health, it says it is the physical, mental, and social well-being. So undoubtedly, going by the norms, also we need to focus on these three dimensions of our health, and we need to make sure that these three dimensions of our health are taken care even in an unfavorable situation. The last thing I would like to tell everybody is, we as human beings have the most evolved brain. And adaptation is something that we already have as an inbuilt capacity. The only issue is a lot of times we are unable to adapt because probably we are not utilizing our brain to the fullest capacity. So there is no worry about how the life is going to be after COVID-19. We are well equipped to adapt to the new comings. And I'm sure all of us agree. If you all see, in the month of March, the number of cases were 500 and we were all panicking. And today, the number of cases are in lakhs and we are almost back to work. So, somewhere this is where your brain has that capacity, and we need to work on adapting. And that can happen by taking care of the physical, mental, and the social health. Next slide. Next slide. We can go to the next slide, ma'am. We've spoken about all of it. So this slide again speaks about what are all the activities that we can do. Like I discussed, be it proper sleeping hours, proper eating timings, physical activity, meditation, yoga, mindfulness techniques, avoiding alcohol, avoiding other psychoactive substances. And there are a few foods that I wanted to mention which actually relieve anxiety, which actually increase your serotonin contents. These are tryptophan rich foods: banana, cheese, chicken, milk, oats, high protein foods like beans, cheese, eggs, fish, lentils, the whole wheat bread, brown rice, and then citrus fruits, greens, and rice. All of them have been proven to be rich in tryptophan, rich in boosting your serotonin levels. So undoubtedly, making this a part of your day-to-day routine is also going to release these chemicals into your body. Next slide. So, well, the correct treatment, psychotherapy, medication, and relaxation methods have been proven. So, if somebody still feels that these symptoms are there is in us or our loved ones, and these techniques are not being helpful, we as professionals, be it the psychiatrists or the clinical psychologists, are always available. And medical therapy and other psychological therapies have been proven effective. So let us destigmatize ourselves from seeking mental health issues, and undoubtedly by doing this we can improve the quality of life. Yes, ma'am. Next slide. Well, with this, I end my presentation. So, firstly, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I'm open for any kind of questions in regards to my presentation or in regards to mental health.
Excellent presentation. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge, views with us, which will definitely help us in reducing anxiety levels. It was an informative, inspiring, and motivative lecture. It was very clear, sir, that high levels of stress and anxiety take a significant toll on our mental health and often occur with symptoms of depression. I'm sure all the participants have benefited. Now I request Dr. Jarna to take over the questionnaire session. Over to Dr. Jarna.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, one and all. Sir, your session emphasizing on rise of anxiety levels in pandemic was really very informative, sir. We do accept that mental health is an essential ingredient in one's quality of life. And sir, during the present ongoing situation, we are all very anxious to know about our well-being. In regard this, sir, we have a couple of queries from our very enthusiastic participants. Sir, I request you to kindly address the same. Sir, could you please enlighten us more on difference between symptoms of anxiety and depression levels? Over to Dr. Virinchi, sir.
Ma'am, can you repeat the question, ma'am? Difference between anxiety and?
Yes, symptoms of anxiety and depression. Sir, this is particularly to avoid confusion during diagnosis.
Right. So one, when we talk about symptoms of depression, the cardinal symptoms are sad mood. So they're not, most of the time in a day, they are having sadness. And then there is reduced in their energy levels. So all of a sudden, they realize that somebody who used to work for 6 hours, 8 hours a day are probably getting tired, after 30 minutes or 40 minutes of activities also. So this is easy fatigue. And the third important symptom is anhedonia. Anhedonia is unable to enjoy something, enjoy pleasurable activities. Probably, somebody who used to enjoy going for a walk, or somebody who used to enjoy playing a sport, somebody who used to enjoy a particular television show, somebody who used to enjoy meeting people. All of a sudden, this person now says, I don't enjoy doing that anymore. It can be even enjoying food. He all of a sudden feels that, I don't enjoy this food very much. So such symptoms are, a warning symptoms that, this could be an underlying depressive episode. With these symptoms, there could be other symptoms like sleep disturbances, appetite disturbances, memory issues, and there can be, negativity about the future. Your self-esteem is low, your confidence is low. You start feeling that, the world is not nice to me. They feel worthless about themselves. They feel hopeless about themselves. And all of this finally leads into that negative brain, which says that there is no meaning for me to live. And they suddenly plan or attempt or commit a suicide. So these are majorly depressive symptoms. When it comes to anxiety, they're more of physical symptoms. I might be sitting in a very comfortable position and my heart is beating very fast. I don't understand. I'm just sitting comfortably and my heart is beating very fast. I might feel that my body is sweating. There could be headaches. There could be some gastric irritations. There can be difficulty in breathing. I feel like there is some heaviness on my chest. I feel that, there is some hot flashes on my face. And, sometimes this difficulty in breathing could be so severe that they feel that this might kill them, or, they might die. So these are majorly symptoms of anxiety or panic.
Thank you, sir. That was a really wonderful clarification for the asked query. Sir, could you please go into more details, sir? That is the second query. How to recognize a person who is depressed, trying to harm himself, and how to help them? Because, sir, now we are facing
the
many
most
suicide cases.
important aspect in recognizing depression is change in biological functions. That is one of the first symptoms that we usually see. They're having difficulty in sleeping, and difficulty and, sudden change in their eating habits. And then, recognizing them is easy because, somebody, somebody in depression is deviating from their normalcy. I would recognize my colleague having depression if, he would walk into the walk into my cabin or, walk into the workspace where we work together, and, he's not smiling. He's, constantly dreaming, daydreaming, or, he's thinking about something and, he's not responding quickly. And, when I probably tell him, let's go out for a break, and he says, no, no, you carry on. And then I ask him what his weekend plan is, and then he says, no, I prefer staying home. I crack a joke, he's not enjoying that joke. So, a normalcy, there is a deviation from normalcy in that person's behavior. So that is when we usually identify. See, because, he expressing his thoughts or emotions could be the last thing. But, through the behavior, we can actually identify it initially. And once we identify, I think it is important to sit and talk to him and ask him, what exactly is he feeling, how he feels, is there something that is troubling him? And then they even speak about, how their emotional disturbances are, or how he's having disturbances in perceiving things, how he feels everything is negative. And through that, I think a complete picture of depression can be, made out, and then, immediately taking him to the concerned person is possible.
Sir, will there be any specific triggering factors, sir, which will be the cause for the recurrence of the condition every year? Is there any method to identify the triggering factors, especially in case of bipolar depression?
Well, if you look at literature, the literature says the triggers are, inside as well as outside. So the reason for the illness is, polygenic and multifactorial. So there are multiple genes inside, there are multiple external factors inside. So external factors are something that we sometimes identify. If you're asking about bipolar depression in specific, even the slightest of the sleep disturbance could trigger an illness. There have been multiple times, I've been called on television when, there is, a faith healer and, a religious person and an atheist fighting about, psychological changes which happen during the new moon and the full moon. And if you actually look into literature, there are studies which say that during a new moon or a no moon, a full moon or a no moon time, there has been differences in sleep of a person, and that sleep can also trigger psychological stress. So even the slightest of deviation from your normalcy, it can be, not getting sleep for a couple of hours because, you had a function and you didn't take the medicine and you were up all night. I have even seen slightest of triggers like that. Climate has been, one of the important things. Seasonal affective disorders is a very common entity, especially in, colder countries. The European countries, they see a sudden hike in depressive episodes during Decembers. So climate itself can be a triggering factor. So there have been numerous stimuluses that can actually trigger, but the important ones are change in biological functions, climate, and psychoactive substances majorly. Alcohol, drug use, nicotine use. So these are the more significant ones.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, for such a lucid presentation. I understand this, your subject is very vast, it's like ocean. But sir, I am really impressed and it was my proud privilege to interact with you, sir. You have given so much information in this short lecture. You covered so many aspects, like you spoke on stress, anxiety, you spoke on hormonal changes, and also you have given us the statistical data, the present economy, the economy being disturbed is now the source of significant, it's a source of stress now. We all know about it. And sir, you have also said that neurological changes also play a role now. You also spoke about genetic aspects. And sir, above all, sir, I really appreciate you, sir. You have mentioned on this platform that it is better to call it a physical distancing rather than calling it a social distancing, sir. Sir, I'm so much glad and thankful to you, sir, for clarifying our doubts and giving us such a wonderful session. Sir, in the chat box, there are so many compliments and people are so grateful and they're expressing their gratitude to you, sir. Thank you once again, sir. Have a nice day. Over
Thank
to
you
Dr.
so much,
Gomati.
ma'am. I won't take much time. Thank you, everybody. And if there are any more questions, we can surely connect after this session also. I'm available on all the social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So I would love to hear more from all of y'all, and I would be very happy to clear all the questions and connect with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, sir. Over to Dr. Gomati.
Thank you, Dr. Jarna. Once again, I thank you, sir, for giving a clarification and also for your valuable suggestions. We shall now move on to the next session. We are privileged to have an eminent personality, Dr. Maithili Hazarika, Associate Professor, Guwahati Medical College and Hospital, Guwahati, Assam. I now call upon Mrs. Rama Devi, Faculty, Department of Chemistry, to introduce our guest speaker. Over to Mrs. Rama.
Ma'am, your voice is not audible. Just can you check your mic and read once again?
No, ma'am, you're not audible.
I'm audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Today's speaker, an eminent researcher, Dr. Maithili Hazarika, Associate Professor in Clinical Psychology, Guwahati Medical College and Hospital. Dr. Maithili had pursued her degree and master's from Ferguson College and University of Pune with distinction. She had completed her MPhil in Clinical Psychology from National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, India. She had pursued her research in psychology towards fulfillment of PhD degree from University of Guwahati in 2012. She had also worked on her postdoctoral research training for 1 year in University of Florida, USA, on the topic neuropsychology and drug abuse in the year 2016. Dr. Maithili had been into the medical service from 2000. She was clinical psychologist in Assam Medical College and later senior lecturer in clinical psychology at Guwahati Medical College. She is an active member of the editorial board of a peer-reviewed Open Journal of Psychiatry and Allied Sciences and present reviewer of National Tobacco Control Program, Government of Assam. She is also reviewer and examiner of psychology and sociology courses of Guwahati Medical College and supervisor of master's degree interns from all over India. She is a member of many prestigious organizations, to name a few: Indian Psychiatric Society, Assam State Branch, Steering Committee member of the National Tobacco Control Program, Government of Assam, and State Level Monitoring Committee member of Cable Television Network under Information and Public Relations Department, Government of Assam. Core member of the Prevention and Intervention of Burn Victim Society, Sneha Bandhan, and mental health expert consultant in Udayachal, a special school for differently disabled children. Her contributions to science is exceptional. She has 37 publications in national and international journals. Dr. Maithili had pursued Fogarty Fellowship for Non-Communicable Diseases in University of Florida and also at National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. Represented as a delegate of UNICEF for child abuse for multidisciplinary professionals. She was a guest speaker for more than 100 seminars, 66 workshops, and on television and radio had disseminated information about the importance of mental health problems, prevention, early identification, and treatment among the mass for over a decade in Assam. Her talks have focused on various psychotherapeutic practices, stress reduction techniques in various government and non-government institutions. She is involved in various community developmental projects in the area of mental health and has a family trust in the memory of her late father, namely Patan Hazarika Charitable Trust, and one of the primary objectives of this trust is awareness and intervention programs on health and social issues. She is presently engaged in two funded and two self-funded research projects on substance abuse, neurocognitive functions across lifespan perspective and mental health of young children. Little Flower Degree College welcomes you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Rama. May I request Dr. Maithili Hazarika to take over the session on COVID-19 pandemic and its multidimensional impact across dimensions. I request the technical team to able her to share the screen. Over to Dr. Maithili Hazarika.
Thank you very much. Am I audible to everyone here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So a very good afternoon. And after an elaborate introduction by Mrs. Rama Devi, I think people know me very well. But yeah, I'm doing my part from this part of the world as much as I can. And I definitely would like to thank the organizers, especially Dr. Gomati, for all the time being behind me and setting up dates and the time and the topics and all. Dr. Gomati, I'm very, very happy that I could make it and all of us are here today. And it's a delight, Mr. Vincent Reddy, he's the principal of Little Flower Degree College, and also Dr. Devabrata Khanikar. He's very dear to me. He's from Sonapur College, a principal. I'm very happy to be here, sir. Thank you very much for having invited me to be a speaker in such a, a very, very technical and educative as well as an academic seminar and a webinar at national level. Thank you very much. And Dr. Virinchi Sharma, he had given a very, very elaborate introduction about what is anxiety, what is stress, and from all the different perspectives. And so I would definitely like to go ahead with some of my work that I have done so far in medical college as well as in our Assam at this point of time. I'm Maithili, as people know me by now, and I would like to go through certain things that we had done in this part of the world. Like mental health, as we all know, matters a lot, and this pandemic has created a lot of trouble in our mind as well as our inner body. So what happened to me is, like, in last 2.5 months, I myself had gone through quarantine for my daughter who had come from Delhi, and I had to keep her secluded, and we had to be inside home. I couldn't go for work. And during that time, I realized the kind of telepsychological counseling that was so very important in order to address the mental health needs at this point of time. So what happened is I started writing basic guidelines and published it also. And it's the first time from this part of the world, there is one guideline on pandemic that has been published, and that is the only guideline during this pandemic. So we had worked for 15-20 days and published it, and after that I wanted to do telepsychology counseling, and the government, basically the Assam police, came forward and gave us 6 helplines. And with the 6 helplines, we, the clinical psychologists, all our trained clinical psychologists, we started, running the helpline and got some kind of problems in mental health in different kind of people in this part of the world. And I'm just now trying to show you what are the different kind of issues that they came up with. The panic and anxiety regarding COVID was very high among this, and this is going to be published. I have sent it for publications, it's on the way. Lockdown worries were very high among this population, depression, as he had already mentioned. And also there was some need for guidance about what is COVID, what are the different misconceptions, what are the different myths about COVID. And we have also seen that the past illness of psychiatric illnesses that is there in a person got really relapsed during this phase, because there was lack of medicines, as well as people could not actually access to mental health care. And there was this fear of loss of job and rise of domestic violence, which I'm going to talk in detail, that what we did and how we approached those people while doing telepsychology counseling. So the teenage issues was very high, and some people had written here that what are we going to do with children who are in the net? I'm going to talk about that a little bit late. There are these migrants issues that is really going to be huge now, because the finances will take a toll on people, and there will be a lot of depression, case of depression, as well as you can see the rates of suicide these days. There were people who had called us up for e-pass inquiries, like how will they come from one place to another. People from Hyderabad had called us saying that we are stuck in Hyderabad and now how to come home. We are in, we are from Assam, we are from Manipur, we are from Shillong, and guide us how to come. And these were the calls that we used to get. There was definite increase in behavior addiction. That is one thing that we mental health professionals need to be very, very cautious, because the screen time management, how much time we can give to a child to be in the gadget, and that has to be streamlined. Otherwise, again, the new internet addiction or the behavior addiction will set in, and it will be very, very difficult to control. So the post-traumatic stress, if you can go through the research in Ebola and Nipah virus and other viruses that had happened, HIV, AIDS, and so many things in the past, we can see in swine flu and all, swine flu. So what happened was, during those kind of pandemics and different kind of stress that had happened in the society in earlier days, there was post-traumatic stress disorder later on. Afterwards, when people used to assess the mental health of people, we found a lot of PTSD cases, acute stress reactions, and grief issues. Basically, we got cases where people had lost their near ones, and how to resolve the grief over the telephone was not very easy for us. So I'm going to definitely talk about those case studies at this point of time. So this is, there are three case studies that I want to discuss with you people. And we did a very, very comprehensive management of these series of cases. I have sent this for publication. It is not yet published. It's on the review, status. So this is a young woman. She is around 20-year-old female. All right. So what happened? The Deputy Commissioner of Assam Rural, Mr. Kailash Karthik, he called me up one day and he said that, Madam, this is a lady who is, hospitalized. She is in isolation and she is in extreme stress, and she is crying and nobody is being able to console her. And she is in the hospital, the quarantine hospital, the COVID hospital that we have in Guwahati, the Guwahati Medical College. Then then I was like, all right, so what do I have to do? Then you just have to give a call and find out her mental status. Immediately, I called her up and, I talked to her, and I came to know that she's a student of master's degree, and she had come from Bangalore, and she was found to be COVID positive. And she was in the isolation ward. I don't know what happened to this. Yeah. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I can control the slides from here also, right?
Yeah, ma'am. You can control it, ma'am.
Yeah. So this was this case. Then when I talked to her, then I came to know that she had adjustment disorder. Adjustment disorder is something to do with her, event in life. When you cannot adjust to a new negative event that has happened in your life, you just cannot cope up with the stress. So in her case, she could not adjust to the new hospital environment. She just came from Bangalore with her parents, and she was very shocked. She just asked me that, Madam, my parents were with me, my brother was with me, everybody was with me, but nobody was COVID positive. Why me? I mean to say, I didn't go anywhere, I didn't do anything, but I am COVID positive. Are the results true, or I think it's false? And how do I cope with this? And she was like, I think it's better for me to die rather than live with COVID and those kind of symptoms. Then I really had to pacify her. Then I asked her, what is your main issue? What is it that you're so distressed about? Then she said, no, because I think I'm going to die, the kind of report that I see. Then I had to give her education about what is COVID and how does it pass and what happens, and the rate of death all over the world is so less. So different kind of mechanisms I had to use. At first, I had to really pacify her. Did some grounding exercise. That please sit down. Where are you? Do you have anybody around you? Have a glass of water. And then she had a glass of water. And I did deep breathing exercise with her. Like take a deep breath. Breathe in and breathe out, and talk soft. Don't have to be so loud and shrilling and all. It's okay. Just normalize yourself. Everything will be fine. And in that way, I had to compose her, because she was like on top of her voice crying. Then at that point of time, I said that everything is fine. Do not worry. We are all there. The doctors are there. Your parents, and you are away from them only because of the transmission of this disease. Because it should not be that being in the hospital, you're doing a lot of good work, because you're making the whole society safe, because the transmission process of this disease happens very fast. And because of that, of the safety side, because of the safety issue, you are kept in the hospital for a few days, and you'll be definitely be out of this hospital, because it's just an infection and you'll be fine. And in that way, when I was talking to her, she was pacified and she could sleep that night. Next day, I called her up and I asked her how she, and was she eating, could she sleep well, and what about her exams. And she started talking to me about her exams, her books and all. Then I spoke to the center head to get her books to that isolation center, and they did it and started studying also. And she did her deep breathing exercises and some kind of mindfulness training, which Dr. Virinchi had said about being in the moment and being now and here. So in that way, I had to really pacify her over the telephone when we did everyday session with her. This is another lady that the second case was a case of a 23-year-old lady who had come to our outpatient department in Guwahati Medical College. She came with a lot of aches and pains. She said that I am having stomach ache and I am having all the different kind of tingling sensation in my whole body and I can't sleep and a lot of physical symptoms. And then she said, I have a major disease, doctor. I think I have got COVID. Then people had asked her, like, how did you get this illness? How do you think that you've got COVID? Then she said, because I have a travel history. I have come from a place called Borpeta, which is in Lower Assam. And she said there are 2 cases in Borpeta that has been found. And I think I have, gained that, infected by them. Then I had to ask her, like, how far were you? Did you meet those people? Were you in contact with those people? Because are you a secondary contact, if not a primary or the primary contact? And she said, no, I just know that they are from Borpeta and I have come from Borpeta. So I think I have got it. And she had this deluded kind of a belief. Nobody could, make her understand that this just cannot happen. And this is hypochondriacal because you're thinking a lot that you have a disease, but actually you don't because your tests are negative, you don't have any symptoms of COVID. And she said, no, I have symptoms of COVID. I have a cooling sensation in my whole body. I just can't stay still. And I think I'm coughing also, doctor. And then I really had to, make her understand. But still, when we could not, she was given medication. And we said, okay, with medication, she will be finally a little bit stabilized. And after that, probably we can see her again. Then we called her again after about 7 days. And by the time she was a little bit stable with her physical symptoms with medication, that is anti-anxiolytics that people give at a psychiatrist. This was a case of, hypochondriacal with anxiety and depression because she had low mood. She was not, eating and she was fatigued. She had no interest in anything in life. So that those were depressive symptoms. Then there's another lady who was 37-year-old married woman, and she was a homemaker. And the neighbors used to tell her that, she's got COVID. And then when I asked her, why did the neighbors say that you had COVID? Then they said that because I had fever, and that fever actually lasted for a long time. And subsequently, I had a lot of, symptoms of my respiration. And I am like quite rigid in my way of thinking. And she was very rigid also in her way of thinking. And she said, because of these, I have contracted COVID. Then I said, are you sure? Then she said, yeah, I am very sure because I know myself. And I think, COVID is in me, and please, doctor, keep me here. I don't want to go home because from me, my family will get COVID, and from my family, the neighbors will get COVID. Then this was another case that we had to deal, and we had to ask her, like, what help does she want from us? And she said, no, I want to get admitted in the hospital. That these are the different kind of cases that we had caught during this phase. And these 2 people, at second and third, we had done psychotherapy in our OPD basis. And the first case was done on telepsychology counseling. So I mean to say the kind of panic that we had come across during this telephone counseling as well as face-to-face counseling is significant. And there was one online study that we did in the first initial 2 months. Rapidly, I started giving survey to people. The aim of the study was to explore the psychological impact of COVID-19 during the initial period in the general public of India. Because we have all the data from US, China and all, but we didn't have any data from India. But when I did this, there were a lot of people around, 600 and some recipients and the respondents, and from there we could analyze around 465 people, I guess. And we saw that the depression, anxiety and stress level was very high. SD was 23.36, but 36% were depressed, 32% was anxious, and 31% was stressed. And most of the respondents were young adults, women, single, and middle socioeconomic status, urban locality, and they were students. And it was very amazing to see that and the rate of depression among India was not very different from US. As he had already said, it was 36% in the US. So here also it was around 35 to 36%. So you can see that the stress and depression and anxiety is equal across the globe. It is not only the US, it's in India, in China, and China also it was like a similar kind of a report from 25 to 36%. So then what we did was, in this telepsychology study that I had done, and this was done, I told you initially that Assam police had provided us with 6 helplines, and from 7th April to 24th April, there were 239 people who had called us. And from there, that is in Assam, okay, entire Northeast. Some people were from Bhutan and even from South India, from Mumbai and all. And these are Assamese people who are in different parts of the country and also in different countries like Bhutan and Nepal. These were the two countries that they had called us from. So we saw 23% were having symptoms of depression, and we had, 10% had anxiety spectrum disorder, and 46% had anxious preoccupation and worry about the lockdown and the uncertainty. So they were very uncertain, and so 46% had anxious preoccupation. When will the lockdown come to an end? What is going to happen tomorrow? Will it end? And if it ends, is it going to be this year, or when is it going to happen? That was the uncertainty in people's mind. So there were 13 callers who had expressed death wish and suicidal ideation, and they needed emergency help and medicines due to earlier interpersonal conflicts, which got exacerbated during the period of lockdown. Why I want to focus on this is because I'm going to talk about domestic violence definitely, but what is important for all of us to understand here is that somebody had asked in the chat that what about the suicide? What about people who have major issues about depression? If they want to die, how are you going to deal with that? At this point of time, when you feel that a person is an emergency, you have to definitely treat the same as an emergency. Immediate hospitalization, immediately contacting the family members, immediately, taking some measures to curb that kind of status is very, very important ethically. Medicines will be required, probably sometimes ECT is given for suicide, ideation, and immediately somebody has to be roped in. I mean to say, even if he says confidentially, because I don't want to tell anybody else, but as a clinician, you have to take the family members' names or the police, 100, you have to dial and give the address of this patient and deal this patient as an emergency. So the psychological impact is huge, as you have seen all over, and regardless of the exposure. I'm not talking about people who are exposed to COVID-19 pandemic, even people who are the family members and who are secondary and tertiary, even if they do not contact with any kind of COVID patients, are in anxiety state and very fearful, and they blame people for, blame religion, blame the society, blame certain kind of races, blame, they give virus name as Wuhan virus or Chinese virus, and all those are stigma related issues are also coming up. The psychiatric morbidity, I'm not going to talk so much about that because people already know, and Dr. Virinchi had already talked about all these issues very much in detail. But what I want to say is about, the grieving process. Why does a person grieve so much, and what happens to this, the status of people when a young child or any family members dies in the whole process of COVID? Many times I have even got phone calls about anger. He's getting very angry that the person had died. Resentment. How can he just leave like this without notice? So this is something to do with, resolution of non-resolution of certain things, the unfinished business that has happened because we were not prepared for it. And suddenly this person is no more there. So it is some kind of, a kind of a dysphoric feeling that I just could not get time with this person. And he's just taken away from the health workers and he's no more with me. And it's a kind of an anger towards oneself. It's an introjected anger. And sometimes that might also lead to suicide. That, if this person had died, it's no point of me surviving in this world. So those kind of thoughts also comes to our person's mind during the status of grief. And those who are sick in quarantine, they may experience guilt and also stigma. Guilt is very high, but what I see is that a lot of people whom I have talked over the telephone, I have found that they are very guilty of going to this place and that place. And probably they are also saying, I shouldn't have gone around, I shouldn't have met some people, probably it was a mistake on my part, and a lot of guilt. And this guilt also leads to sadness, and that might also lead to depression and suicide. So is this stress universal? Yes, this stress is universal because it is very, very uncertain. We do not know, how the transmission is taking place, and the fear of dying and death is very huge, and we are not prepared for it. It is so sudden, and lack of adequate knowledge, and people have very less knowledge. What I have seen, even people who are educated, who are very knowledgeable, who are elite class people, they also do not have the adequate knowledge about transmission, about COVID-19 virus, about the infection, which is not to be so panicked about, or not to think to be so dangerous that it can kill you if you take proper precautions and you know what you need to do. And human beings are non-adaptable. Yes, we get adapted with time. We just cannot get adapted in a magic or in a fraction of a second. And because of that, it's a lot of adjustment disorder that takes place in our human mind. And we cannot adjust to our emotions, we cannot adjust and control, and we just cannot get adjusted to new situation that is prevailing. Then it is definite stress for us and definite anxiety for us. And we are people who are non-flexible. We are very rigid as human beings. We have a particular way of doing things, and if there's a jeopardy or there's a kind of a change, any kind of change, may it be good, positive, or negative, we cannot be flexible. So this non-flexibility also makes us very rigid and depressed, and we do not know what to do, and extremely anxious, and guilt and existential anxiety. Yes, I have seen a lot of people asking about what is the meaning of life now, because I don't think there is any meaning in my life, because whatever I have studied, whatever I thought and planned for is not happening. And I really do not know whether it is going to happen or not. So this is one thing people ask. I don't see any purpose in living, ma'am. I don't think, my career is going to give me any reward tomorrow because I have chosen a career. Probably it is going to die tomorrow. A lot of teachers, even, things are becoming digitalized. Everything is so online. So people are thinking, as professionals, how much we'll be able to connect. Even psychologists ask me questions, ma'am, we always used to believe in in-person therapy. We always used to think about face-to-face counseling, because face-to-face counseling via media is different from face-to-face counseling when you are in-person counseling. And we used to sense a lot of warmth, our non-verbal communication that matters so much in counseling. What about those? We were taught that non-verbal communication is very important. Here in counseling, we will not see how the person is sitting, what is his gesture, is he fiddling, is he showing any anxiety symptoms, because we don't see him. So will this counseling help? All these different kind of issues are coming up, and people are so extremely anxious about their own professions, because people think whatever profession they are choosing is not a right profession anymore, because the world has changed and everything is going to change. So that is another existential anxiety for people thinking about depression and suicide. There is another thing is about no treatment. When something is treatable and curable, then we are okay about it. There's a vaccine, right? We can have the vaccine and we'll be all right about it. But when we know that there's no treatment, they imagine the kind of load that people will have in their mind when they get the COVID-19. They'll see that there's no treatment. So I don't know whether I'll be cured or not. So these are certain issues. So the post-pandemic mental health problems will be high, very huge. As people had already said, alcohol use, stress, depression, PTSD because of isolation, quarantine. A lot of stigma and discrimination is happening all over the world, and in India more so. And the stigma and discrimination is killing everyone. Why? Because people are not going to healthcare professionals to show themselves, because they think if tomorrow I'm assessed and I'm found to be COVID-19, then probably I'll be in isolation, I'll be treated like an untouchable, and the family is going to leave me. Nobody is going to accept my dead body, even for burning and cremation. It's better for me not to show even if I have symptoms, and I let me die among my family members rather than being in an isolation. So this kind of an attitude is building up because of the stigma, because of all these issues that we are reading in the news. Even in Assam the other day, again the deputy commissioner, he spoke to me and he said, ma'am, you know what happened? I said, yes, sir. And then he said that we have to do something about the stigma and anti-stigma related issues and all. Then I was like, how can we go about it? And he said that own family members did not allow their own family member to be cremated, because they didn't want the dead body to be brought home. And he did not know, and the whole management authority, the general administration did not know what are they going to do with the dead body. And the administration in Guwahati had to take the whole responsibility on their shoulders to go and burn the dead body. I mean to say, the family refused to even take and see the dead body. This is the amount of stigma that is happening. If before death you come to realize that you will not even be given that kind of a credence and respect after your death, and your dead body will be piled up by somebody else, look at the mindset. The people will be so fearful to even go to show their symptoms to anybody and take help. So this is how it's going to be negative among all of us, and this is going to really be a killing status. So at the individual level, across all generations, child and adolescent issues, domestic and family issues, and the elderly population. He had given an introduction, and he has touched upon certain things. I'm going a little bit deeper into those issues. So when we talk about the child, what do we talk about? The children are developing, and they need a lot of peers in their life, and they have high physical energy, and they have high need for social play. So when there's a risk of infection, when there's excessive fear of illness, where there's a disruption of normal routine, where there is a worried about the loved ones, about their parents and their grandparents having an illness and not allowing them to go to the grandparents, not allowing them to meet their neighbors, diminished care and supervision because the parents are all the time anxious and they also do not know how to manage their work and home and all those issues, then definitely there is a high level of stress on the children. So the kind of stress and signs that children might show is preschoolers may show thumb sucking, bedwetting, clinging to parents. They could have sleep disturbances, loss of appetite. They may also regress to childhood behavior. Some preschoolers, they may behave like an infant, cry like an infant. Elementary school children, they may be very irritable, clingy. They may have nightmares. They have poor concentration. They may refuse to engage in family and friends. Adolescents, they may withdraw from other people, they may have conflict with others, physical complaints may also be there, loss of interest. And if these symptoms are there, definitely for 2 weeks, somebody asked a question that, when do we have to show some health professionals? When should we go for treatment for these kind of symptoms? If all these symptoms that we are talking about remains persistently, all the time for 7 days to 2 weeks, all the time, pervading, consistently present, then we have to show a mental health professional. Otherwise, it's normal. It's a normal anxiety to an abnormal situation. But if these symptoms stays from 7 days continuously to 2 weeks maximum every day, then you have to show to a mental health professional. So what is domestic violence? So domestic violence, as we know, it's any other violence in marriage or cohabitation, when in a relationship or marriage, one or both the partners uses physical, sexual, or psychological violence to try to get the power or control over the other, it is domestic violence. It can occur in heterosexual relationship and same-sex relationship. It can also involve violence against children, parents, or elderly. The purpose of domestic violence is to gain control or power over the victim. So the forms of domestic violence are physical, sexual, verbal. As I said, physical, it can cause you fear, pain, injury, and other kind of physical suffering or bodily harm. Sexual, using sex in a very exploitative fashion or forcing sex on another person. And sexual abuse may also happen, that is verbal as well as physical behavior. Verbal abuse, the act of forcefully criticizing, insulting, or denouncing another person. It harms the self-concept of the other person and produces negative emotions because the use of abusive language is so threatening, so denigrating, so embarrassing for the victim that she or he just cannot take it. Emotional abuse is also one kind of domestic violence where any behavior that exploits another person's vulnerability, insecurity, and character by continuously controlling, manipulating, and degrading that person emotionally, not physically, is also domestic violence. There's another violence which comes under domestic violence is economic abuse. It is a form of abuse when one intimate partner has control over the other partner's access to economic resources. It may involve preventing a spouse from resource acquisition. That you don't allow your wife to take, property from somewhere or buy property or object the wife from taking any property from her family, limiting what the victim may use or by otherwise exploiting the economic resources of the victim. This is another kind of domestic violence. So domestic violence cycle is in couples is something like this. It is like a person in the couple, one spouse or the husband and wife. Here, if I'm talking about a man, he may, lure the other person. It is a honeymoon stage where people talk very nicely to the other person, and try to gain the control over the person. when the other person likes him for whatever words he uses, then that person will be brought under his control. So the husband brings the wife under his control by a lot of good messages, good, very good communication, a lot of lovey-dovey messages and love you, and a lot of other things which makes the wife or the partner feels very, very happy. After it is done, what happens? He will try to isolate that, wife or the co-partner from other people. You should not meet your friends because I love you so much. You should not meet your parents so much because it's not required to be always with your parents. It's not required always to be with your friends because I am there for you. In that way, the person will isolate the partner. And after that, what will happen when the other person has completely been detached from other people and she or he is only with this partner, then this person will create some violence, some kind of emotional abuse, sexual abuse, or any kind of abuse will take place. And at that point of time, she has already submitted herself to this partner, right? And it will be very difficult to come out of this trap. So at that point of time, when the abuser, then for some kind of reconciliation will happen, that okay, if you do this, and I'm not going to do that. If you do this for me, I'm not going to do that. And then he's going to impose a lot of demand on the partner. Then the partner, when she understands that this is not going to happen anymore, he's trying to use me, and tries to retaliate and tries to say something, then the abuser plays a victim card and then blame the victim. And again, this is a cycle that happens, that because you're retaliating, I'm feeling like this, and you're an abuser. And this is a kind of a game that person plays. And it is this way, you don't know how you get into the trap. And when you get into the trap and you feel that there's helplessness and you don't know what to do because you are already in this person's game plan, and then to come out of this whole charmed kind of an atmosphere, this kind of a cycle, is very, very, very difficult for couples, because she had already been distant from anybody and everybody who was special in her life, and she has become a victim to the circumstances, and she has become subordinate to this partner. So many a times, when you are a victim of domestic violence, you really do not know that you are actually being abused, because it is done very differently by partners. And then coming to elderly. In almost all countries, older people are facing the most threats and challenges this time. So more than 50% of all fatalities are involved above 80 years, above 70 years. So older people face a significant risk of developing severe illness if they contract disease due to physiological changes that come with aging and potential underlying health conditions. We have to understand that elderly people already are physically ill people because they are weak, and their immune system also is compromised. So because of that, it is a risk for them to meet people, to go out, and people also are not allowed to go and be with elderly people because of the different kind of vulnerability factors. So at this point of time, what happens? They feel really isolated. And when the elderly people always wants to be with others, they are social, they want to be in groups, they want to be with family. And this kind of isolation definitely leads to a lot of anxiety and depression. So during times of isolation and quarantine, older people need safe access to nutritious food, basic supplies, money, medicine. And this is very easy to be done in India, because India is a kind of a, we are a family oriented country. It's not very, we are not individualistic so much. It is, think about, America and US and, UK and Europe, what is happening there? Because the elderly people are all left by themselves alone. So most of them are dying because of that, because they are not getting nutritious food, they're not getting the basic supplies, and they are actually not being able, not going for their own health checkup because they are so old, they cannot go alone. Many things, the health support system is only the government, and family is not always with them. So most of them are dying because of that. But in India, we are always with family. Family takes care of the old people. Old age homes concept is very new in India. So what is happening is that, people, old people are getting a lot of respite, and people are taking care of the old people. Still, the damage is definitely there, and we are becoming an individualistic society, and we are definitely Western minded nowadays. So because of that, old people will definitely suffer in India also, but less comparatively to the Western world. So mental health during anxious times is also a key consideration for the old people, and they should be respected. They should be treated with dignity. That should happen, because many a times what people are doing is that, they are telling their younger children that don't go near your parents, don't go near your grandparents. The way they are saying, the children are also not understanding why. Children are like shocked. Suddenly we are not allowed to go to our grandparents. Why? Because we love to be with our grandparents, and suddenly the people are saying do not go, and it's like a stigma for them. It's a kind of discrimination for them. So we should know how we talk also. So what is the management of these psychosocial issues across generations? What's important is, how will you talk about the risk of the infection to children? Talk to children in a very calm and assured tone. Introduce COVID-19 as a kind of flu, as a kind of a germ theory that we do. What is flu, what is a germ theory. Do not scare them with literal facts, because they will not understand. What your language should be very much correct information, and the language that you use should be age appropriate, because for a 5-year-old, you cannot speak the same language that you speak for a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old child. So you need to know what kind of communication you need to have with the children. Hand washing, physical distancing, all these are always important. People are talking about all these. So how you can demonstrate? So some of the examples that I want to give right now is, help children simply understand the basic concept of disease and the prevention and control, like how germs can spread. For example, by putting colored water in a spray bottle and spraying over a piece of white paper, observe how far the droplets travel. When you put a drop in a paper, how it gets smudged, the whole paper in no time. So make them understand that the disease of this COVID is something like that. So it just kind of moments may, it can spread. So it's just like the droplets in the water droplets in the paper. So demonstrate why it is important to wash hands for 20 seconds with soap and water. So then put a small amount of glitter in students' hands. Like, you can put a small amount of glitter in a child's hand and have them wash them with just water. Notice how much glitter remains and have them wash for 20 seconds with soap and water. Then they will understand the difference between just washing with plain water and washing with soap water. Have students analyze the situation to identify the high-risk behavior and suggest modifying behaviors. You can ask the children, what do you think are the high-risk behavior at this point of time? How will you modify that? What are you going to do for that? Asking children about themselves and how they are going to be safe at this point of time and why it is required. Do not share cups, eating utensils, foods, or drinks with others. So you should tell them and why and what is the reason for saying that. Again, giving the same kind of examples that I have given. Focus on good health behavior, such as covering cough, sneezes with the elbow, and washing hands. Those are why important. Again, you have to give the explanations for that. Always give brief and simple information to children. And always give reassurance that adults are there to help you, keep you healthy, and take care of them if they get stuck somewhere. Why it is important is to reassure the children all the time, to make them feel safe. Children are very fearful at this point of time because they are not understanding why so much of precautions. So you should make them understand that we are there for you, you are safe in our hands. So give some examples about how adults are working for them, how to keep them safe. So positive reinforcement always should be given. Whenever the child washes hands, you should say, very good, you washed your hands. You should thumbs up and, give a star on the star charting or something like that. Give positive reinforcement most of the times. Social reinforcement, good, very good. Touch, pat, kissing. Touch is important for young children. Though we do not give touch for our elder people, but with children, we can definitely touch them and say very good and hug them and kiss them and all. So upper elementary and early middle school children, you should be more vocal and verbal in asking questions about whether they indeed are safe, what will happen if COVID-19 spreads in the area, what will they do. So they are very curious to know about the facts. So provide the basic facts and what is research going on till now. But we cannot conclude all facts at this point of time because research is going on and will take some time to come to some kind of conclusion. They may need assistance separating reality from humor and fantasy. So you have to make them understand what is real and what is fantasy and what is a rumor, because they will not know. Everything will be so diluted because a lot of messages they are getting from different kind of social networking sites. Try to normalize and do not magnify the issues and make it very, very big for them. And issues can be discussed in more depth with high school students. Elaborate the discussions with consensus, refer them to appropriate sources of COVID-19, provide honest, accurate, and factual information to them, and sometimes use them also in the decision making about the family plans, scheduling, and also asking them, okay, tell us who is going to do what in the family. You know, ask the children to make plans for delegating the task among the family members. Okay, tell us what do you want your father to do? Tell us, what do you want your mother to do? What will you do? And what do you want every one of us to do together? So joint activities, how can we do certain joint activities as a family together? So encourage them to verbalize their thoughts and feelings and be a very good listener. So many a times we talk a lot, but we listen very less. So be a very good listener to the young minds. That helps. So how to deal with anxiety? Help to express feelings and normalize the feeling by discussing the proper fact, acknowledge and show understanding of child's concern, avoid being judgmental. Do not judge and label a child. When the child says, you know, Ma, I saw this today and I think it is something which is very huge and I really don't know. I feel that person is going to really hurt me or kill me, or he's wearing something like this and he's wearing gloves and he's wearing a lot of headgear. I don't know what is going to happen. And then that means what? The child is fearful. But you should not say, oh my God, you're so fearful about this. It is nothing. You know, you should not label that it is fear. You should speak in a very different language. Oh, is it like that? Did you, how are you feeling? You tell me about your feelings. Tell me about your thoughts. What does it mean by that? Why is he wearing that? What do you think about it? You know, so something like that. But don't say that, oh, you're fearful. Don't be fearful. You know, if you label that emotion as fear, then the child will definitely get fearful about it. So in that way, do not label emotions of children by giving all those psychological terms. So don't be judgmental, because we are not judges here. We are trying to understand the feelings of the child. So as psychologists, as mental health professionals, if some of you are, I am suggesting that, you know, deal with the children in that manner. Be very relaxed. And if they are having some kind of, you know, fear sensations or anxiety sensations, start deep breathing exercises immediately. And always coach to practice positive self-talk. You know, nothing is going to happen, everything is fine. You know, there is something, a disease that has come, and this disease is going to go away from the society very soon. People are working very hard and nothing is going to happen. We are not going to die. So ensure some kind of realistic kind of comments. So a lot of things are to deal with the worry about the loved ones, you know, psychological availability of parents. It is very, very important to discuss about favorite memory, discussing events of old family album, reliving the moments that you had gone, you know, we have come across in life, living with those moments, discussing about different kind of positive things that we had done to each other in different times in life. Probably we had no time to talk about all those. So engaging children in creative work, helping them make the bed, clean the dish together, some joint activities. And many times it is always very, you know, helpful to discuss about some fun facts about family, you know, about things that you never knew about your parents. To discuss about that. You know, how did your parents meet each other? You know, how did their relationship happen? And what are the good things about them, you know, together as a couple before you were born? You know, those kind of things that you can talk about. And always remember, it is very essential to write what you're going through during this pandemic, because like how we are doing different kind of activities, every day is a new day for me. Like, you know, when I was in the webinar and I was talking, you know, I was here listening to Dr. Virinchi Sharma, there were two calls, one from the ADGP Assam police, another from the superintendent of Borpata Medical College. Both of them had called me and said, ma'am, there is a person who is so and so and he's suicidal. No, he needs help. Now I said, can I wait till the webinar is over? He said, yeah, you can wait, because he needed some money and we had put the money in his account right now, but he needs help because he says that he wants to die. And then another person, I said, the superintendent, he calls me up, he gave me in my messages 3 people that are there right now. After this webinar, I'm going to call up. And he said that these are the 3 people, ma'am, they're very restless and they're saying they're going to run away from the quarantine center and they're very anxious. Can you please help right now? I said, again, I said, after the webinar, can they wait? And he said, yes, definitely, because the doctors are there, but still psychological counseling is required. So you can imagine the kind of, you know, impact the persons are having, and the psychological, the necessity of psychological intervention every day and every moment these days. And the profession is getting that kind of a demand, which was never there before. In some ways, people are realizing that the mind really matters. These kind of pandemic, we never thought that the psychological help this extent is required. At every moment we have to be on our toes. So I think we are doing a great service, so we need to have gratitude exercise. So make a list of things where you should be grateful to the Lord for what you are doing in this world. So in that way, place a jar with different activities, ask them to take and do things, making and restoring child's routine, which he has already said. I'm not going in detail, but something he has not said. You may try about having picnics with the children and doing things together. Why women tolerate domestic violence? Why do we actually tolerate domestic violence? First is, which I told you, we really do not know why and how we are in the trap in domestic violence cycle. And when we are in the trap already, it is too late, because we are so disconnected with our friends and family that the person gets a hold upon us. We sometimes feel that we are working too much outside home, so he can say or she can say anything to us, because it's a compensation for the jobs that that person has allowed us to do outside our home. So these are the gender roles that we think that before we used to think that only men used to abuse women. Nowadays, women also abuse, and not nowadays, from a long time, women also abuse men. So it is it's not about a role reversal that is happening, because people are becoming equal in earning, in being together. So I think this role reversals is happening. So domestic violence is happening from both sides nowadays. There's a lot of time denial that when I ask a woman, have you ever been abused by your husband? And she said, no, never. This has never happened in my life. And because people deny, and they, out of shame, out of respect to the partner, they do not even accept that they are in an abusive relationship. And that becomes a big threat, because by the time that a woman comes to me, she's already depressed, she's already suicidal. So it is always important to deal the issue in the initial nascent stage, so that tomorrow you do not become a victim of domestic violence and be in a threat and you do not know what to do. Sometimes what happens is you also tolerate domestic violence because of the future of your children, and it's a threat. Because women, if they are not earning, if they are not doing any work, and there is no financial security, then it is the children's future for which they live with their husbands, thinking that it will be a threat for them if they leave the husband, because how will they survive alone in this world if there is no support system, because of the economic reasons. Sometimes there's a death threat by the abuser, like if you say this, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to kill your child, something like that. So many a times women think that there is a hope for change. Probably after 1 year he's going to change, probably after I have a second child he's going to change, probably when the children will become an adolescent he's going to change. So the hoping for change, so they keep tolerating the domestic violence. So according to the National Family Health Survey, 30% of women suffer from domestic violence, out of which 30% is physical, 30% is husband, 8% is sexual, and only 14% sought help to stop it. So you can imagine only 14% has help. And many countries have reported that domestic violence against women across the world have increased by 30% since the lockdown. That means if it was 30% here, in 2016, Family Health Survey, and 30% is increased since the lockdown, then 60% will be domestic violence, which is quite high in, rate to have at this point of time. So it is very, very scary, because the women do not know whom to come, whom to say, whom to talk about their stress. Fear, depression, increased risk of suicide. So reasons for surge. Why is this happening? The crisis situation often precipitates greater domestic violence. Why? Right. It is because certain earlier issues gets aggravated. Many times over the phone, when I had counseling to different people during these 2 months, I saw many people had problems from before, and they were actually not dealing with these issues before the lockdown. And when there's a lockdown right now, they have immense time to be with each other and know that these earlier issues are getting aggravated, because they have nothing else to talk about, and they are in conflict all the time, because the earlier past incidents crept up, and they said that why did you do this, and that led to a lot of violence. And many times people are thinking that when the lockdown will be over, we are going to the family court. That's the first thing that we are going to do. Stress, frustration, displacement of anger. Many times what is happening is, if I am angry, I'm displacing all my anger on the other person, because there is nobody else in order to show my anger and frustration, because of job loss, because of the growing economic problems, because of the whole scenario. we take each other for granted. So when we take each other for granted in the family atmosphere, what happens is that I show my anger to the person whom I love and whom I feel intimate about, because he or she is not going to actually retaliate, or he or she is not going to say that I am somebody alien, because he knows me very well and he will take me, and we take each other for granted. So that is why displacement of anger is happening. Unemployment, uncertainty, spending more time together, reduce access to basic resources. These are some of the frustrating situation. So prevention of domestic violence can happen in 3 levels. First is we need to give some counseling centers in different places, and counseling centers should be in various places which is reachable for the people, the women. It may be in our shopping mall. It could be near the cinema hall or anywhere, which is very much reachable for the people. Then they walk through and then they walk in a counseling center. Online counseling center that we are doing right now is very, 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 very stimulating for us as well as helpful for the other person. So unemployment pension can be given to the women, which is not happening in India, but definitely in some countries they give unemployment pension. Free legal aid, prosecute the perpetrators. And then you have to prosecute the perpetrators very fast, in a fast track court, how to deal with that. So there can be zero domestic violence policies. So that is also in the government level. In the societal level, we should stop the stigma, because many times we feel that a woman who is abused is again she gets victimized. Many times people say that she might have done something wrong, or she's a working woman, she goes out with men, and probably because of that the husband has threatened her or abused her, and it's okay, because otherwise also I think she's bound to go through all these. That kind of a stigma that people say about women who are in job and juggling between home and personal life and private life. So reprimanding the abuser again, supporting the victim, facilitating the victim to take a decision. No, we don't actually. We should facilitate the victim to take the decision, educate the female children with domestic violence. And today I'm educating the female, whoever is female, that this is what the domestic violence cycle is. So if we know that we are in such a cycle, how to come out of that, and we should not be feeling trapped in that cycle. Gender sensitization to all male children is very important. The males should know how to respect the women, and they should know that they do their work by themselves. So in the individual level, breaking the silence is important, because violence thrives only in silence. And so seeking active help. There could be some help codes. I have made that basic guidelines. If you can go to the URL, I think I'll share the URL with Dr. Gomati so that she can share that URL with other people. So there I have written the helping codes, like, if a woman is calling you up and you are in the counselor's role, you are listening on the telephone, and the woman is calling you up for domestic violence, okay, because she has been abused by the husband or the partner, but she cannot tell it over the phone because the partner is just nearby to her. Then there should be some fixed codes, like, you just tell me, are you being abused? Then if she says yes or no, she'll not be able to say it. And if you're abused, then tell me, what is the time? If you're abused, just tell me this sentence, what is the time? Something like that. Or I'm feeling, very hot, or I want to eat something, I'm feeling very hungry, some code of something like that, so that the psychologist understands that this person is being abused and you have to do something about it. Because if the person is hitting her, she'll not be able to tell anybody, this person is hitting me, because he's going to hit her more. So isolate the perpetrator, isolate herself, self-help with pepper spray, red chili powder, have an escape plan ready, do not get trapped in domestic violence, are different kind of languages that you need to use. So domestic violence under any circumstances is not justifiable and reasonable. Elderly need physical care and support, but now it is locked down. Elderly love company, but now it is locked down. So what should we focus upon? Good time to relive memories of bygone years, give reinforcement to keep distance for their safety, let them think about going through and organizing old photos, memorabilia together, enjoy the stories and happy memories to inspire. The grandchildren and children should be reminded that physical distancing is not disconnection. So to keep the connection with the elderly population by any means, by video conferencing, by WhatsApp call, in the WhatsApp also, they can talk to their grandparents, in the video calls and all. In isolation, they may break down. So, the seclusion may also enhance their capacity, their vulnerabilities and risk factors more. So it is very important to make some plans, like what are the medications they should take, what are the healthcare providers they should contact, what are the emergency numbers, what are the end of life care options they may have. There are some advanced directives. Sometimes in psychiatry and psychology, we have advanced directives. That is, we should give some advanced directives. And if I'm ill, so and so person should be contacted. This is the phone number. So any caretaker, anybody who budges in the old person's home should know that this person has to be contacted for these reasons. So these are called advanced directives. So we should have the phone numbers, and all has to be pasted on the walls on a chart paper so the elderly population can see them and call them up immediately if they are in need of care. So physical safety, taking help of neighbors, and neighbors should be known that there's an old person here and he's all alone or with a helper, whatever you plan to do. Regular supply of essential commodities and medicine for diabetes care, antihypertensive drugs, any kind of mental health medicines, if it is there, antidepressants should not be self-medicated, because if they take anti-anxiolytics, antidepressants, they may kill themselves. So it is better that self-medication is not given. Even if it's given, you should keep one tablet only for them to have every day, something like that. Keep assisting device functional, like hearing aid, glasses, dentures, walking stick, wheelchair. Social company is important, using technology and social media. And the symptoms of distress, it's anxiety, depression, and death wish, if it is there, to consult the mental health professionals immediately so that they get care, because elderly suicide rate is very, very high. You should always remember that we should not take the depression in elderly as granted, because we always feel that he's old, he is retired, his children doesn't stay with him, so he has to be depressed. We take it for granted. No, it is nothing like that. Depression is an illness, and depression has to be treated with medication, with psychotherapy, with counseling. So you have to say that, yes, probably he's depressed. Let me check if he has some low feelings, sadness, irritability, sleep is not okay. Then we have to start with some kind of medication probably, and also indulge in certain kind of quality time. So, small routine activities can be given to them. Some recreational activities like puzzles, some board games, Ludo, Carom, or whatever, listening to music, old songs, which they used to always like. Connect to loved ones every day through video call, which I said already. Physical exercises like simple yoga, meditation, simple stretching exercises, cutting down listening to news and seek information from reliable source, because the old people are always in front of the TV. So we should cut that down also. We should know where they are taking the information from, and identify a support system. That is very important. If the old people cannot go to the grocery shop or medicine shop, so the support system should ask the grocery people, the vendors, to give the essentials to their home at one particular day, so that it's on their doorstep and they can just carry them inside their home and prepare their food. So these are certain things and strategies across the generation for children, for domestic violence people as well as old. So supporting and protecting older people living alone in the community is everyone's business. It is not only the family members' business, it is everyone's business. We should know that. So the take-home message is, this pandemic is a temporary phase and it is not going to last long. This too shall pass, but only when we react and act responsibly and collaboratively. First priority is physical distance, physical safety. Second priority is restoring the normalcy and quality in daily routine. And we need to normalize our behavior, normalize ourselves in our day-to-day life. And this is the best practice guidelines that we had published. I had been with three authors together with me, and I'll provide with a link. This is written in the if you can see the footnote, best practice guidelines for telepsychology during disasters, and it is published already. I'll give the URL link here. All the different ways of counseling during the pandemic, how to do, what to do, even the counselor's anxiety, how you should do and how you should manage that is written. So if you're interested, you can go through. It is online, it is free. Thank you very much. And this has been a very, very, I think, nice webinar to present with, because a lot of students here, and it's a mixed crowd, I believe. And I would love to have some questions if you have any. Thank you very much, Dr. Gomiti and all others present here. Thank you.
Yes. Excellent presentation, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for enhancing our knowledge on COVID-19 pandemic and its psychological impact on individuals. It was an inspiring and valuable presentation. The case studies and the information how to handle children gave a clear picture of the effect of anxiety and depression, and you also dealt with the solutions to it. It is a marathon and not a sprint. I now request Dr. Jarna to take over the questionnaire session. Dr. Jarna.
Thank you, madam. Good afternoon, madam. Madam, as Dr. Gomati said, it was really an excellent session. And in fact, I have no words to praise you, ma'am. You have covered so many aspects, ma'am. You spoke about migrants. That was really a pathetic situation our people have faced in this COVID season. And madam, you have also shared your research information with us. We are really thankful for that. And you spoke about stress, anxiety, and depression being equal across the globe. And ma'am, the very important thing is you said that we need to seek a medical advice when symptoms are noticed. Ma'am, I think this will really help to prevent more frequency of suicides. And you have given differences between signs and symptoms of stress at different age groups, ma'am. And you have also covered on domestic violence and how to care elderly particularly. And you have covered even yoga, use of yoga and meditation. That was really, ma'am, a full pack lecture. And we have so many compliments and gratitude for you in our share box. Madam, we have some queries from our very enthusiastic participants, especially ma'am from student. I would like to read this as it is, ma'am, so that it will be very clear for you. Exams are postponed and I am worried about forthcoming entrances. Sometimes I'm feeling low thinking all about it and sometimes misbehaving with my family members. Hope could I get how could I get out of this?
Okay.
May I repeat, ma'am?
No, I got it.
Okay, thank you.
She is feeling very guilty about, responding negatively to her family members. I would say that it's okay. Sometimes to behave negatively, to retaliate is all right, but it should not happen all the time. All right. So you should understand how to control your negative emotions and, self-regulate yourselves. That is very important to understand, because our emotions should be always in our control. Okay. And we always take our family members for granted. So what happens is, my parents will understand if I shout at her, and they also feel depressed because you are in a very, very distressing situation. And the parents will see the distress in you and they will also get depressed. So it is a depression is going to get generalized from you to your parents, and it is going to be a cycle kind of a thing. So what you need to do is see at this point of time, we understand, as teachers, as professionals, what you people are going through. I have also spoken to different educators, so what do you think we should advise the youngsters? This phase, as I said, is going to really pass, but definite change is going to happen. So you be prepared for any kind of change. You just be equipped to deal with any kind of situation, because life is all about changes. You need to adapt to different kind of methods of learning, like this online education. See, it has become so easy for us to reach out to each other, right? I wouldn't have known Dr. Gomati, I wouldn't have known Dr. Charna, or I wouldn't have known anyone here, isn't it? Only because of this webinar, they know me, what kind of work we are doing in Assam, I could present. And I very proudly am presenting our Assam model. I'm again telling you, I haven't shared this. Just 2 days back, the government of Assam, the health and family welfare minister, he is Himanta Biswa Sharma. He had given me, along with me, some colleagues of mine, the responsibility to start Assam Mental Health Task Force, where we are calling up the people by ourselves, the COVID-19 patients by ourselves. 220 people are there. We are all in the web, okay, in the portal. Through 104, we are calling each and every individual of COVID-19 patients and doing counseling, which is never done in any of the states in India. Okay, people are all having helpline, and helplines are there. People can call the helplines, but it's not this. We are calling the people. We are not waiting for them to call us. That is what is very important, because we don't know whether we are depressed. We don't know we are anxious or not. See, this girl who has written to us right now, she is definitely anxious. She is definitely very sad and low. She needs somebody to talk to. So now she has got an opportunity, she's asking questions, right? But if somebody would have called her up and asked her, how do you feel now? Your exam is not happening, your career is in jeopardy. How do you feel about it? And then she says, yes, I'm feeling sad, I'm distressed, I'm very irritable. Then I would suggest that please go and speak to a professional. You might need medicines also. The same goes to her today. If you are very irritable, your negative emotions are not under your control, please talk to a psychologist, please talk to a psychiatrist. Medicines may help you because you are probably very anxious. Okay. And also remember that every challenge should be taken as an opportunity. This is a challenge. And in this challenge, how you can change into certain opportunities to learn new things in online, to do certain things differently, start learning. Okay. And this definitely will pass. And if you have anything to ask me individually, I have my number. I've given my number. I have my email. Probably everyone can be given my email, and you can contact with me individually also. And I can connect to you to some kind of mental health professionals if you want to see them face to face, anywhere you are.
Thank you, ma'am. I think well said, ma'am. You said life is all about change. And I think change is the law of nature and we need to adapt to it. Ma'am, I would like to move to the next query.
Yeah.
During lockdown, we are all frustrated. How to overcome this?
We have already said how to overcome. It's about overcoming. It is about facing it. Okay.
Yes.
After we face it, as Dr. Birinchi had said, we learn to become helpless. Probably will learn to get adapted to this phenomenon. You know, now that we are already getting adapted to it, we are already overcoming it. See, you people are in the webinar learning new things. You're trying to overcome it, right? You've got some new knowledge today, and you need to replace your old set of thinking with new set of thinking. You know, that is called cognitive restructuring. How you can change your way of thinking. You know, if you can change, like how you see a half glass of water, right? Half full or half empty. So in the same manner, you just change your way of thinking. That this is a time where we can get along with people from abroad, from webinars are happening. We are getting along with our family members. We are all together. We would have never got such a time. You know, never we had got such a time to quality time with our family members, spending and knowing each other. Sometimes we didn't even know our parents, you know. Sometimes we wondered, you know, now we wonder, oh my God, my mother is like this also. She, you know, certain new things you will see in your parents, in your family members, which you would have never known, and probably you are blessed for that. So, and also think that how blessing, you know, the grateful you should be to the God that we are. See, we are people who are talking, we are people who are eating well, we are sleeping well. Think about the people who are not even getting the chance. You know, the migrant workers, the people who are not having all these webinar and high elite class of technologies, how they are surviving. Have you seen those people who are, you know, carrying the handicapped people in the bicycles and going, you know, the handicapped person who cannot, you know, cannot walk, people are cycling them and putting them in front of their cycle and riding the cycle to bring that handicapped person home. So this is how people are taking it as a challenge and coming home to be with their family members. So we are with our family members. That is the greatest blessing. And I think that is the greatest, you know, way of doing and dealing with things at this point of time. So do not get disheartened. Think positive. You know, if you think positive, your emotions will be positive, and your emotions will be positive. You'll behave positively and be with people.
Thank you, ma'am. I think you well said that it's now time to become more patient and humane, in fact, so that we can help each other in this situation.
Yes.
Ma'am, may I have one more query, ma'am? This is regarding sleep, ma'am. Any tips to sleep such that we wake up with a relaxed mind? Any tips to sleep such that you wake up relaxed?
Yeah, it is very important to sleep without the mobile in your bed. Okay. Mobile should be out of your sight before going to sleep. There should not be any such conversation which is taxing to your mind. You know, if about career, if about your studies, it's something to do with the coronavirus, never do that. From evening to not have coffee, tea, whoever is having sleep problem, caffeine should be avoided. You should have very light music, and, you know, don't go to bed if you do not feel sleepy. Avoid the bed till you are sleepy. Be on the chair, just go for a walk, do something, but do not be on the bed and toss and turn on the bed. Bed should be avoided even in the afternoon. People who are having sleep deprivation problem, avoid the bedroom and the bed as much as possible. Have food, nutritious food, but don't overeat at night. Have light food and do relaxation exercises. You know, some deep breathing exercises or mindfulness based. You can download mindfulness based stress reduction from the, you know, internet, an MBSR, that is a website, and you can go to that and see the videos also. You can see in YouTube and then listen to that and then do the relaxation and go to sleep. And avoid talking to friends and people after 10 o'clock or 10:30 and make a routine. It will be very, very difficult to set a routine because your habitually our routine is set. So you have to learn to unlearn your old habits and learn some new habits. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving us such useful tips. I have, in fact, no words to praise you, ma'am. Once again, thank you for giving us such an excellent session, ma'am.
Thank you for providing this opportunity, all of you, because with Hyderabad students and all, I wouldn't have got an opportunity like this, right? So yeah, so I'm so very thankful. I was in Bangalore for quite a long time. I mean to say for my MPhil, and I know all the people who are from South. I think you all do a lot of work for the society, and you are having helplines also at this point of time, right?
Yes.
Are you having from your school certain helplines in
yes, ma'am.
psychological cases?
We do have. Most of our institutions, we have cells particularly for overcoming the psychological. We do have a psychological aspect.
You do have counselors, designated counselors?
Yes, ma'am. We have a counselor, psychologist in the college who can help children, who students at distress.
We have a department of psychology as well, ma'am.
Yeah, so you can ask a counselor to do some survey. You know, some survey scales can be given. Even that scale that is there in my book, you know, that scale also can be randomly given to everybody, and the name should not be written. And then from your school, you can do a survey and see the stress and anxiety among the students as well, the parents of these students.
Yes, ma'am. We understand. In case of research, the names should not be disclosed, as it is a very sensitive subject and a very challenging also.
Yeah, then you can get an idea na, how to, you know, focus and what to focus probably in your school also. This is my, I think is a suggestion outright I give.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ours is a college, ma'am. We do have
college.
schools
I mean to say
also.
college.
We do have both in our campus. We have school, college, and also.
Hey, college me, what you can do tomorrow. I have a drug abuse webinar with IGP and DGP Assam Police. It's on drug abuse and drugs challenges. You know, the substance use disorders is huge among adolescents and among college goers because it's very huge. Even cannabis and other stuff. Yes. So I think, you know, certain these kind of studies you can do during this COVID-19 pandemic. If you need any help from me, I can be of help because my Florida grant, USA, is on substance abuse. And I'm doing on the thinking and cognition and planning and executive functioning of substance abusers. Because some children are very intelligent, but they don't do well because they are having substances like tobacco, alcohol and all, you know, and that creates a lot of difficulties in studies.
Yes, ma'am. It's a really, ma'am, very interesting, ma'am. You have a very good ideas, and we'll be happy to collaborate with you. And definitely, the suggestions given by you will be considered, ma'am.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
We are looking forward for a future support also from you. Thank you once again. Over to Dr. Gomati.
Thank you, Dr. Jarna. Once again, thank you, ma'am, for giving clarification and also for your most valuable and lucid presentation. We are all on the sea of life. Sometimes waters are calm, sometimes a bit choppy or stormy. Be mindful of our emotions. They have huge impact on what we do and whom we are. Let us not forget that little emotions are the great captains of our lives and we obey them without realizing it. I now request Dr. Jarna to express her sense of
Hello. Hello.
Yes, you are heard, Dr. Jarna.
Yes. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you can talk, Dr. Jarna.
Yes. Dear participants of the webinar, on behalf of Little Flower Degree College, I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to our eminent guest speakers, Dr. Virinchi Sharma and Dr. Maithili Hazarika, for accepting our invitation to speak on managing roller coaster of emotions during COVID-19 lockdown. The lecture delivered indeed by our speakers were very informative, inspiring, and motivating. I thank them for sharing their immense knowledge in understanding the psychological impact of COVID-19 and for their fruitful interaction with the participants. Friends, lockdown is highly impactful and may result in stress, traumatic reactions. I'm sure today's lectures delivered by experts, particularly on mental health promotion, offers the opportunity to build the skills, services, and environments that support good mental health. This enables people, organizations, and communities to realize more of their potential, flourish, and improves outcomes which may contribute to a greater sense of satisfaction and well-being in our lives. Once again, I thank our guest speakers for giving us valuable time from their hectic schedules and making today's webinar sessions excellent. I thank all the participants for their active participation and cooperation. I'm sure that this webinar was beneficial in updating their knowledge and also prepared all of us to face this pandemic situation. I sincerely thank a college management principal and vice principal for their constant encouragement and continuous support for conducting these events. I also thank the staff, faculty, and students of LFDC for their kind help and cooperation in organizing the webinar. Finally, on behalf of Department of Zoology, LFDC, and also on behalf of Sonapur College, Sonapur, Assam, I once again thank everyone whose contribution has made this national webinar a grand success. Thank you one and all. Have a nice day. Over to Dr. Gomati.
Thank you, Dr. Jarna. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our afternoon. On behalf of LFDC, I thank you all for making time in your busy schedule to join us here this afternoon. Organizing such a webinar requires contribution from all quarters. This national seminar enjoys the special support of our principal, Reverend Brother Vincent Reddy, Vice Principal Mrs. Jayanti Reddy, and a dedicated computer science faculty, Mr. Vijay and Mr. Raman, who were always there to ensure that the events were executed with precision and quality. I thank Dr. Devabrat Kanikar, Principal, Sonapur College, Sonapur, Assam, who had collaborated for a noble cause to fight against anxiety and depression. I express our deep sense of gratitude towards our esteemed speakers for their wonderful session. Last but not the least, I appreciate my colleague Dr. Jarna, who shouldered me tirelessly throughout this journey in making this webinar a grand success. I had to mention and appreciate with whole heart our technical help rendered by our BZC student Sai Charan throughout this program. It has been a pleasure to host this event. Sometimes we are tested not to show our weakness, but to discover our strength. Together, we can survive the COVID-19 crisis and live well. Find joy in simple things, as even a wee smile a day can make a big difference. Stay safe and healthy. And it's Dr. Gomati signing off for today. And for the participants, in the chat box, you can find the link for the feedback form. Please fill the feedback form and submit to get the e-certificate. Thank you for the evening.